Meeting of Tuesday, March 26th to order. A couple minutes late, but we had people that were late getting to their seats. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Peter Talbot.
Here.
Jim Hanks. Here. Dina Allard.
Here.
Fiona Pearson.
Here.
Don Walsh.
Here.
Patricia Kramer. Here. Greg Wolf.
Here.
David Belver.
Here.
And John Mylone. Everyone's present.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag. The meeting over to our budget chair, Mr. Jinks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have, tonight we have planning, economic development, building, town clerk, elections, human services, public health. I don't know how we're going to do all that in 30 minutes, but good luck. So planning up first, correct?
Yep.
Okay, take it away, thanks.
Thank you. Just for the record, Mike Liddon, Town Planner. You have my presentation in front of you, but I also have a sheet that was provided to the council. It kind of goes over what my department is responsible for, both from a federal, state, and by local ordinance. So you just kind of, I know a lot of you are familiar with what our department does, but we, as you can see, we have a lot of statutory and federal and local responsibilities. So you can go to the next slide, Andrew. Oop. Okay, thank you. Clicker's not working. So here's our mission statement. As you know, we are providing technical assistance and customer service for land use matters. It comes for anything from someone coming in to applying for a building permit to add a shed in their backyard to someone going before the land use commissions to eat, or it could be someone coming in saying, I want to know whether this is allowed by what's going on in my neighbor's yard, et cetera. So, and like I said in that chart I gave you, it kind of shows you we're all over, we do a lot of things. Overall, the department budget there is a slight increase of 5.08% or $14,000. $12,000 and $12,885 are related directly to salaries. The other non-salary increases are related to continuing education. As you see that list of what we have to do, it also means that staff is required to maintain several licenses and certifications. So with that comes the responsibility of continuing education. So that's where you see our increases. There's 3 full-time budgeted staff members here. We're not changing our staffing levels for the department. Since the reorganization 2 years ago, this department is functioning with myself as the town planner, assistant town planner, and a land use specialist, and we've been able to provide still a high level of customer service and staff all the land use commissions, et cetera, dealing with a lot of what's going on construction-wise in town. Before I go into the commissions, do you have any questions on the department budget? Okay. As for the land use commissions, you could see that there are increases in each of those budgets. There's small increases, whether it's P&Z at $4,900, the Zoning Board of Appeals at $2,900, or Inland Wetlands at $3,140. There's 2 driving factors that result in those increases. One, Public Act 2119 requires members of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals to participate in continuing education. A minimum of 4 hours is required every 2 years. So we are in that process of getting people certified and doing their training. The other is legal notices. Unfortunately, the reality is all of our land use commissions are still held by statute, which statute reads that any legal notices regarding matters that go before our commissions have to be advertised in a local newspaper. And the reality is there is no local newspapers. So therefore, we're held by whatever these prices are, which continually go up. We're one of those I guess, money makers for the newspapers. Unfortunately, the reality is that it's a technical issue if we don't advertise in the newspaper, so we have to do this. And so these numbers were based on kind of what we've been seeing for applications in the past 2 years, and also what we're paying right now for legal notices. And we've tried to put as a bare minimum information as possible to cut down on costs, but yet still be legal from a legal notice standpoint. But like I said, because we have to do this, this is what drives these numbers.
Excuse me, Mike, could you
Yeah.
just ask one question on that? This has been a pet peeve of mine, the cost of the newspapers. But on that, we have 4 local news, daily papers here. Do you shop around to see which, I mean, I know 2 of them are owned by Hearst. and-
So here's the dilemma that we're actually facing right now. There is a appellate court case that came out, and we're waiting for the Supreme Court to rule on this. It says for a land use commission, we are supposed to advertise in the newspaper that has the highest subscription levels in the town. So therefore, we're in a dilemma because the newspapers don't share those numbers. We've been using the Record Journal, or Herbst Media at this point. So that's where we are. We're waiting to see how that's going to impact our lives, because there's been attempts to move these legal notices to the town websites. Unfortunately, at the General Assembly, it always fails. The newspapers kind of all rally against it. Even this past session, they've kind of squashed it. So the reality is, no, we can't really shop around. We're using the big newspaper because we have to, based on that case law.
Just one, with the Waterbury Republican, that's a daily, that I think a lot of people here get too, or the Hartford Current, or, you know. I don't know if any of them are any cheaper or anything, I'm just saying, you know, or.
The reality, because they're all larger entities now, they're about the same, and they know that we have to advertise in their newspapers, so they just keep increasing their fees on us each year.
So it's another thing we need to hit up our state representatives to fight for that, so, because it's costing us a lot of money. I think it's ridiculous that we have to continue putting it in a newspaper that nobody's reading anymore.
Agreed. And the state associations I'm a member of, we've pointed out that during COVID, some of the executive orders laxed those standards, and communities were allowed to just use your website, and the information still got out to everyone. So we know that there's an option that works. It's just right now, we're still bound by this archaic system, which unfortunately, from a budget perspective, is what you see these increases for. The last commission out of that has an increase is the Environment Commission, but that's because they're becoming a little more active and they're attending continuing education seminars. So, and they've been meeting regularly, doing site walks on a monthly basis, and a lot of good things coming out of that commission. So, is any questions on any of these?
So Mike, just a question. So Planning and Zoning and Zoning Board of Appeals, these increases, are they a combination of both the certifications and the notifications that are going in?
Correct.
How much is, just out of curiosity, how much does it cost to certify members?
Well, here's the thing. You have 12 members of your Planning and Zoning Commission, so it's a matter of what's available for training. For example, tomorrow night, the entire commission is going to a training at the AquaTurf, which will give 1 hour.
Oh, that's considered a training for
That's
them? It's not
considered a
just the
training,
annual
so-
dinner, it's now annual dinner and training?
And training, yes.
Okay, okay.
So, and so we pay to be members of that association. We also pay to go to that because it's required. So there's that's option. That's one of the ways that we are trying to fulfill our continuing education requirement. We are also trying to find fiscally responsible options, such as the Council of Governments will be hosting a training here on May 2nd for the land use commissions to provide an additional hour. But the problem is trying to find training and to fulfill the Public Act 2119. It means that you have to pay for some of these events for members of the commission to attend in order to fulfill their continuing education requirements.
So does the person who's training have to be somehow certified by someone? For example, could the town attorney could Jeff D'Onofrio give a presentation? I mean, is he a person that could do the training?
So the town attorney could provide some of the training. However, I think that what you're seeing out of, I was a member that was on the working group that developed the criteria for the training, and it's very specific. Like, for example, you have to do 4 hours. 30 minutes has to be devoted to fair housing. 30 minutes has to be allotted to affordable housing. And then the other 3 hours, it's a host of, whether it's freedom of information, whether it's parliamentary requirements for the commissions, or it could be simple things such as what's coming on May 2nd, which is map reading. It's a varying degree of subjects. And so long and short of it, when there are these events that are open and members want to go, we want to still have that ability so they can. Because in the end, having a commission that is participating in the continuing education and has kind of a plethora of different things, it helps the community out because then they're making sound decisions, and you're not paying Jeff D'Onofrio more money to defend poor decisions in the court system.
No, I guess my question is, is that something that instead of paying other people to do, is that something that Jeff could develop and, could we do that in-house? I mean, I'm not sure what the cost would be for Jeff to do it. I'm just asking, could you have your own town attorney providing this training rather than go to third parties?
We'd have to talk to Jeff and see.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if there was a certain, sometimes that the person who's providing the training has to be certified by a body by someone in order for them to give it, and I wasn't sure if that was the case in this situation. Thank you.
Just quick on our areas of goals and focus. One, we're working on updating the plan of conservation development as we speak. Tyke Planning out of Vernon is the consultant that's assisting the Planning and Zoning Commission. Now, we're supposed to update the plan of conservation development once every 10 years. The POCD is not due for an update until 2026. So unlike most communities, we're looking ahead of the curve. We're not doing it last minute. So we're doing it a really thoughtful process. There will be a lot of public outreach. There'll be public engagement. There'll be engagements of various boards and commissions, et cetera. But that's the Planning and Zoning Commission with their consultant is running it, because ultimately it is their document. It's their requirement under law. The other is assisting to my left, Andrew, with the West Main Street Bar Grant planning exercise with the assistance of the consultant on that is SLR, working on new regs and potentially new zoning for the area. We've been working on that since the summer. And it's still, that's a work in progress, but that's another area which was a goal and objective of the 2016 Plan of Conservation Development, which we are moving forward. And that's one of the things, one of our main goals. Obviously, we spend all that time and energy on the POCD. It's advancing these goals and objectives so that you have a result. So, and then, as I said earlier about our high level of customer service and coordination, continuing the coordination amongst the departments, as everyone knows here, how much stuff is going on in town. It's not just what you see that goes before the commissions, it's also during construction, there's a lot of coordination, there's a lot of, meetings with developers, pre-construction meetings, going out doing inspections. So we do a lot of things as these projects come forward. Like I said, it doesn't just end the Monday night that they're in front of P&Z. It ends when really the project's complete, or sometimes it's the life of the project. So, and on that, that's all I have, unless anyone has any further questions. Thanks.
I guess I'll get us started, Mike. First of all, just a compliment. I know how much is going on in town, and with the increase is modest, and the ability to keep up with everything with the staff you have is, quite frankly, impressive. And I collaborate with a lot of design professionals and attorneys in the state, very complimentary of the professionalism of your department and the town in general, so thank you very much for doing that. The plan of development, I'm curious, there was discussion on the plan of development regarding a traffic study. The police department was interested in doing some work on a traffic study, an overall traffic study of the town. I know there's some interest of members of the council on maybe pedestrian bike studies as well. What is the plan of development going to do in relation to the traffic study, and what's going to be left for the police department, and how has that been kind of divided out? What's the plan for that?
So that, we're early on in the stages, so I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on like how deep we can go. We also have had conversations with the council of governments on potentially applying for a grant to do a corridor study. Because there was money out there, we're waiting, it was supposed to be released in November. We thought about using that as the start to do a comprehensive planning study and say, through state and federal grants. The POCD, obviously, it's an advisory document. It's going to give some suggestions. It's going to highlight some areas. What that can do is an assist in either grants or further studies to kind of really hone in on issues, because we're going to hear a lot from the public, we're going to hear a lot from other elected boards and commissions, so it doesn't get into the weeds of like an engineering study. It's going to pave the way to get to that. The other thing too, what you obviously is going on is you have a lot of construction going on. We really, from a traffic impact, if you think of it, it's a little premature to say what's the impact to all this development, because nothing's built out yet. I mean, you look at, so multifamily housing, you have a total of 703 apartments that are approved in town. 559 are market rate, 149 are deed restricted. Single family, there's 188 that are approved on the books. Of the 188, about 33 have been issued certificate of occupancies as of last week, with the balance under construction. Multifamily, I would say, you know, there's a significant portion of that number, 703, that's under construction as we speak. I mean, there's one project that's 300 apartments. That's the project on Stonebridge Crossing. But like I said, it's still a work in progress. They're still working on it. So to do a real comprehensive engineering traffic study, I think that you know, that would come next. But it is something that should be considered.
Okay, and I appreciate that explanation. Thanks, Mike.
I just have a question about, in the Planning and Zoning Commission, there's a $3,000 budget for audio. Can you just explain what that is? And I just have another question about that.
Video. That's the videos recording, paying for staff to man the camera and videotape our meetings and put it on YouTube so the public can see it.
So leading into my next statement, more than a question. When you watch some of the videos online, I guess I would ask if there was a way that we could get a better way for the public to see what's being presented to the commissioners via the internet, via YouTube. If you watch the meetings online, you can tell that there's something being presented, but it's near impossible to see what it is. And with all the development going on in town, I think it would be a good next step to have some of this stuff online. I realize it's a burden on staff, but not everyone can get to the office to look at documents, and when you watch it online, it's just impossible to see. And there's been times when someone presenting will come to the dais and show something that's just not able to be seen to the public, and I just would love to just mention that to you and just ask if we could work to maybe go to the next level for the public to be able to see what's going on. Just a little pet peeve, I guess. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. Just a quick question. I know you oversee our blight ordinance as well. How has that been going? I know when we first started, we figured there was going to be a big jump and then it'll settle down. How is it going? Do we have many that, I know there was one we ended up getting, but have we started the point where we're taking in revenue because of this, and where do we stand with the amount? I mean, I see that there are houses that are getting cleaned up. There are still some out there that still need some cleaning up, but.
We have a few of the outliers. I mean, you know who they are. Probably they are still. There's a few that are active cases of which they're at the point where the blight officer will be getting fines now. You know, the difficulty to say, like, for the revenue is it's case by case, and you know, there's a few that are elderly and disabled that invoked the self-help portion of the ordinance, so which is kind of stretched out those enforcement cases because of that, which is kind of, it gives them a bit like a kind of due process. So overall, to say that the ordinance has been working, yes, it has. We haven't been really overwhelmed with it. I mean, we're on average between 20 and 30 complaints a year, and let's say like 4 or 5 of them are repeat offenders or the cast of characters that everyone knows. So
With the repeat offenders, I mean, now it's been going a couple years now. I mean, at what point is it where they start having to pay large fines to us, and, I mean, or are they already?
So what'll happen is, it's kind of a cat and mouse game with some of them, where they'll clean, like they'll cut the lawn. One particular individual who seems to be he's the habitual, the lawn grows to 18 inches and he cuts it. We'll cite him, we'll go through the process, and then he's compliant, so the file is technically closed. Then the next time that the yard gets up to 18 inches, we have to start all over, because from a due process standpoint, we just can't start right away. So, I mean, it gets complicated, but what it does is those individuals, they build a pattern. So when it goes to the point where they're getting fines, the hearing officer's been very clear with a few of them saying, if I see you again, you're getting fines. Like, this is, knock it off, straighten it out. So, you're welcome.
Thank you for fielding so many different questions. It's like playing tennis against 9 people, or I should say pickleball at this point. My question has to do with the traffic study and something you just said. We've been discussing a traffic study pretty heavily for the last few months, and I understand there's a bit of a catch-22. So there is a lot of development going on in Cheshire, and that will affect traffic in the future when that development's done. So to hold off on the traffic study to see how the development impacts Cheshire's traffic, development's not stopping. We don't have a moratorium going on, we don't have anything happening, so there's always going to be development happening that will be, when it's done, affecting traffic patterns in Cheshire. In your experience, and if you could guide us, when would be a good time to do a traffic study, considering all of the development that's going to be coming online over the next, who knows, however many years? Because I feel that a traffic study can help us better decide where to promote development. But if we never get that done, and we're always putting it off, waiting for the next development to finish, it kind of puts us at a disadvantage.
So, two things, maybe. One is just, the reason why I say it may be a little premature is, like I said, the amount that's going in. Like, for example, the north end of town. Ultimately, a lot of the impacts that could be felt by that development may affect our neighboring communities, not so much Cheshire, just by the geographic location. And then the other is just that what the difficulty would be right now is that a lot of these larger developments, when they go through, like, for example, the North End's a great example. The traffic review is done by Connecticut DOT because their frontage is on a state road, which we have no say on traffic improvements. DOT, OSTA, the Office of State Traffic Authority, they actually trump us, and they tell us how the traffic, what they feel is something that warrants improvements or something that it's fine, continue. And that's, I think, the difficult balance we have, because even with a traffic study, you have so many state roads that go through this town that they control, they being the DOT, their road network. They control when they say it's not safe. Our local traffic authority, which is Neil Drive, I don't want to speak as the local traffic authority. I think he would be more appropriate to ask that question, is this worthy of moving to that level? Because when something goes to DOT, he actually is the local community official, has a direct line with DOT. It's not a P&Z thing, because the way we're structured under statute, once you start dealing with traffic that's a state issue, it's off limits for us. They kind of tell us from a traffic standpoint how it affects their roadway network. Does that answer your question at all?
It does, but it still leaves us in a bit of a quandary, because we, I understand, in Cheshire proper, there's a lot of building going on that's going to affect traffic, whether it be around the high school or commuting times. And I know that 10 is a state road. Is 70 a state road as well? So I know a lot of traffic along those two roads are going to be fed into by people who are going to residential development. So,
but that's also why we reached out to the Council of Governments and looked at a corridor study, meaning because I'll just give my experience. Previous community I came from, CROG did a corridor study on Route 10 in Simsbury, which came up with a lot of different suggestions. It's a good study to look at. It's the Route 10 corridor study. It's on CROG's website, Capital Regional Council of Governments. I think the town of Simsbury still has it on theirs, probably under the Public Works page. What that did was that basically through a series of public outreach and through workshops, they kind of came up with recommendations on the Route 10 corridor, which was interesting because that was where you had a community that said, we don't want to see it become a 4-lane road. Well, then the study said, well, listen, if you don't make it a 4-lane road, you know, there's going to be pinch points, there's going to be issues you have. You need to understand the balance that you have to strike. The other thing that came out of it was like concepts such as curb cut management. Well, you have areas that are commercial, and you have every 30 feet a curb cut. Well, you should be probably combining these, and then maybe it alleviates some of the issues that come out where people are coming in and out of commercial establishments. But like I said, we were going to try to go the first step going through the Council of Governments to get that kind of corridor study done. So Route 10 would be Route 10, maybe Route 70 or 68. It depends on how when this money comes available. And we've been kind of told by staff at the Council of Governments that they're very supportive of us pursuing this grant and this study. So, which is good news, because usually we're not first in line on something like that.
First, I just want to thank you for supporting all of our volunteer commissions. They're doing some incredible work, and it's good to see the support that you're providing in terms of education and training. Appreciate that. I just had one question in terms of our affordable housing plan. Could you just provide an update as to where we are at this point in our community with all this development that's incoming?
So our affordable housing plan was adopted within the deadline. Our plan calls for the addition of 2% to our affordable housing quota. The Metro Realty application, which was 74 apartments, kind of just kitty corner from Virons, will add 1.25% alone. We have, like I said earlier, you have a total of 149 deed-restricted units that are associated with various projects. Example being Hazel Drive. That's 112 apartments that are in those two buildings. 20% is deed restricted to the 80% area income. That counts towards our 10%. And it only counts towards our 10% when a certificate of occupancy is issued. So another project example being that's under construction, at the end of East Mitchell, there's 52 or 56 apartments. 20% of that development is deed restricted. And you have on the corner Realty Drive, 30% of that development is deed restricted. So there are market rate projects that have been approved and under construction in the town. You also have deed restricted units that are being added. So we are following, there's a good chance that if all these projects are built out, we're going to hit our quota for the affordable housing plan, but most importantly, we also will qualify for a moratorium with the Department of Housing, which will give us an ability to put a pause on 830G applications to kind of reassess what do we do, how do we address this issue. So it's kind of a good problem to have. You're welcome.
So the first thing I want to tackle, Mike, is getting back to Mr. Walsh's point on the legal notices. And I don't expect you to know this off the top of your head, but if you can provide me with the statute, I'd be interested in knowing the statute number that states that,
87D. Title 87D.
870.
D.
Excellent.
87D. Has to do with all the timeframes for all the land use commissions.
Perfect.
And then
Okay.
it mentions that the legal notices must be in a newspaper of substantial circulation within
Yeah.
the community. And then the courts have, there's various court cases that define what substantial circulation is. And then we have to do, for example, you have an application that goes to a public hearing, it has to go in the newspaper twice. It goes once, no more than 15 days, no less than 10 days to the public hearing. The second, no more than 10, no less than 2, with a 2-day interval between the two advertisements. Then, after the commission renders a decision, we have to do a legal notice of action. So within 15 days of their decision, we have to run another legal notice. So we're doing it 3 times.
Yeah.
That's why you see the increase. It's not just that they're raising the money. By statute, we have to, every single application, advertise 3 times. And the big thing is, these are technical errors, so like, the commission's decisions could be jeopardized and could be reversed if for some reason these legal notices are missed or not done, so.
And did you say, or did I mishear it, that it was before the legislature this session, or?
Correct. It actually has been before the legislature to remove that from the statute, out of the past 15 years, I think 12 years. And each year, it dies on the vine.
Do you know what committee hears that by any chance?
Planning and Development.
Thank you. Because I agree with Mr. Walsh. I think we need to have a conversation with our delegation and convince them that this is ridiculous. That in this day and age, there are much better ways to get this information out that's not costing municipalities the money that it's costing. So, to Mr. Wolf's comment, I believe, and I'll ask Arnett to keep me honest on this, we applied for a PEGPESA grant, which will tie in the presentations to Mike's telecast. So, and that'll be for anything that takes place in this room. So help, as Mrs. Doubtfire would say, help is on the way. Mike's department begins on, for my colleagues, on 61. I have a question, actually, and I'm not doing this to be a jerk, Mike, honest. But on page 66, when I look at 66 for Planning and Zoning Commission as an example, the 5502 meetings, the 2023 actual was 521. The 2024 estimated expense is $100, and we're looking for a $360 increase over the 24 appropriation. So I don't want to nickel and dime stuff, but I just want to make sure that if they're not spending it over the 2 years, what is there to believe that we'll spend it in 2025?
So we're going to spend that money, like, as the current year, that we'll spend that money.
Okay, so the $100 that's the estimated expense is
Just-
right now just where it is right now,
Well,
but,
it would have been where it was when we did this budget prior to their current. And then also the other thing too is this will go into 2025. In 2025, the Connecticut Bar Association does an all-day Saturday conference that's available to all the land use commissions. It is a comprehensive review of all the legal requirements. It's a fantastic program, and usually I encourage the members to attend. We've had several members previously, so we've increased it with the assumption that we're going to be able to get some people to go to this. It's an all-day affair, unfortunately, but it's on a Saturday, and they only do it on the odd years. So this would fall into 2025. It'd be March 2025.
perfect. Perfect answer, thank you. That's it, thank you, Mr. Chair.
I just had a quick process question, at least I think it's quick. Having to do with I know a few years ago we started to do the pre-application review process. I don't know how many years ago that started, but so it's 250 hours, which is more or less like a month's worth of work. Is that, first of all, is the pre-application review process something that most towns are offering? And is 250 hours, is that a lot? Is that not much? How much is that impacting your workload?
Well, the pre-application process, it saves staff time, it saves commission time when an applicant takes advantage of that, because that's where we're sitting around the table and going over an application and identifying if there's any pitfalls, issues, et cetera. Because with the developer, time is money, but at the same time, in fairness to the commission, if it's a half-baked application, we're asking them to come out on a Monday night and we have something that's incomplete. The time frame with it just depends on the level, the project, the scope of the project. I've also asked applicants, if they're really, really preliminary, to utilize one of the statute. The statute permits people to have a preliminary meeting with the commission that's non-binding, where they can kind of come in, show their concept, which several applicants have taken advantage of, which has resulted in better applications because they kind of understood, the perspective of the commission versus like spending a lot of money with consultants, et cetera. So in the end, the pre-application process, we're using it,
Yeah.
and it benefits the process by utilizing it.
So it's making the whole process more efficient for everybody. And do we factor that time in with our fees to the developers, or is it more like a complimentary service?
So our fees, under the law, when we collect a fee for a land use application, technically, it's only supposed to go for either postage, legal advertisement, or staff time related to when that application is filed. So when you're in the preliminary stage, it's kind of like, this is the service the town provides. We're not charging a fee for it because really it's not something we can charge a fee under pursuant to statute.
Just one quick follow-up, if I could, just an answer to Mr. Talbot's question. I just pulled in our financial system that one line that had $100, and we've already spent year-to-date $952 in that line. So that estimate is just an incorrect number for the estimate at year-end on that one line.
Thank you, Mike.
Before you move on to the next department, I'm always happy to see members of the public here. So, Mr. Darter, I don't know if you have anything for the planning department, but if you do have anything as we proceed through the course of the evening, just raise your hand. We'll acknowledge you, and you can come up to the podium and make a comment. I want to provide you that opportunity because you made the effort to come out tonight. So, and we appreciate it. Thanks.
Floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Okay, good evening, everyone. I know everybody here, but just for those who might be watching at home, I'm Andrew Martelli. I'm the Director of Economic Development and Grants for the town of Cheshire. So what Sean had asked us to do, because some of you are new here, is to kind of walk through the department, what the functions are of the department, and then go through the budget. So the packet might seem kind of daunting in front of you. A lot of it is pictures, so we'll get through this as quickly as you'd like me to get through it. So what does the Director of Economic Development and Grants do for this fine community? So I support existing and facilitate new businesses here in town. That's something as simple as picking up the phone when somebody's looking to start a new business here in the community, or going and meeting some of our largest employers, Bozzuto's being one of them. I've been in there. It was one of the first things I did when I started here, to make sure that everybody that is here knows that we appreciate that they're here, and then people who are looking to invest in the town, to let them know that we want them to be here, to be a part of the community. While I do that, I identify issues that might be facing the business community, and then act as the liaison to either you folks or to the town manager, and just know that they have a friend here in Town Hall that they can go to and they can call to help to navigate some of the bureaucracy that's just inherent with government. It is what it is, and so I'm here to help along with that. I function as a town representative for the Chamber of Commerce, for the Council of Governments. We're part of the Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments, which is a 13-town region centered around the city of Waterbury. Other state, federal agencies per the direction of the town manager. So that might be the Department of Economic and Community Development. It might be with the EPA or the DEEP, whomever it might be, depending on the day and what's going on here at Town Hall. I apply for and manage grant opportunities that are applicable to the town. Sometimes these are wants more than needs. That might be funding that is out there in the community. That's based on what I hear on the day-to-day, what I hear from you folks, and then also from the town manager and from the community in general. Work directly with the planning department, building, Department of Public Works, and other town departments as necessary. Mike and I work together hand in hand. Here we are sharing a computer this evening, and that's day to day. And I think that has really been for the benefit of developers and for the community in general. I'm also the staff liaison to commissions and committees. That includes the Historic District Commission, so that covers the 47 contributing structures here in the town center, as well as the 9 structures in the South Brooksvale part of town. So there's not only contributing structures, but also some stone walls and some open spaces out there to kind of create the whole fabric of both the town center and the Brooksvale area. Staff liaison to the Economic Development Commission. I report directly to them. They meet on the third Tuesday of every month here at Town Hall, as well as the Town Beautification Committee. So I'll walk through each of those, have their own budget, some larger than others. So we'll go through those, and then if there's any questions, just raise your hand and stop me at any time, and we can figure that out. So the economic development budget as a whole, this is pulled directly from your budget book. It's on page, 72. And the increase there is just for salary, and then the only non-salary line item there is I'm requesting an additional $1,800. $1,500 of that is for a consultant that we have to help with the TIF management. So the TIF district, which I've done a presentation on previously, is for the north end. Development is occurring out there, as we're all well aware, and so there's funds that are beginning to be accumulated by the town, and so just to make sure that we have a consultant to help walk us through that initial process, because this will be really the first year that those accounts will begin to be populated and how all of that is done to help with not only finance but also myself. And so we have Camoin Associates, and then which is now Stores Associates, who has really been with the town since the formation of the TIF district, when that was originally adopted by the town council back in 2019. From there, if there's any other questions, I'm the only staff member for economic development. I am supported by, there's a town hall floater, Michelle Delapoli, who helps me on a daily basis, as well as Noelle, who sometimes I rely on her a little bit more than I need to, but just by virtue of the layout of the town hall building. So if there's any specific questions there on that slide, I just put some of the highlight businesses that we've worked with this year, some different developments, some things that we're really proud of. The Stonebridge Commons development, finally that project is coming to fruition. I can't take the credit for that, but it did happen while I was here, and so we're really excited about watching that project get built out. Hanwha, which located their main engine division center here in Cheshire, which is going to be huge for this town. And then things just as small as Tater Baseball, which is a growing baseball bat manufacturer that did move from Waterbury to Cheshire, and I think that there's going to be a lot of growth with that. It's going to be a really great business to have here in town. So I'm proud of those guys and watch them grow. So should I just keep going, or do you want to? Good? Okay. All right, so I threw this slide in here just looking ahead. So these are some of my goals for 2024. I'll just highlight some of those. If you want to go back to any of these, I'd be more than willing to touch on them. But we do have the 60 acres of development space out in the north end of town. That's going to be big for the town over the next year. And so issuing that RFP and making sure that we do that thoughtfully and secure the best development potential there, not only for grand list growth, but also to kind of round out the north end, because that's really our last large development parcel that's out by 691. Another thing that we're proud of is a school business partnership, working with Cheshire High School to help to identify those students who don't want to take the college track to get into some of our businesses here in town, and also into the manufacturing sector, which goes into the Manufacturers Roundtable, which is something that we started about 2 years ago, which has been very successful over at Cheshire High School, working with the Chamber of Commerce and then others there. As Mike pointed and touched on a little bit, the bar planning grant around West Main Street, huge development potential there, making sure that that's done and we respect everyone's wants and wishes and needs over there, and also looking at the traffic and how all that will be for full build out of those various parcels there, because there's a lot of moving parts with that, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know all the answers, because I don't, and so we're relying on our consultant to help guide us through that process. And I actually submitted another grant application to hopefully get some additional funding to help guide that as we move forward down the line. Ball and Socket Arts site redevelopment, there's more work that's going to be going on there. I'm going to touch on the different grants in a moment. So for that, and then supporting the town beautification efforts, which is a pretty large part of this job. You'd be surprised, but we want to make sure that the town looks nice. And then other just meeting with the businesses, like I originally touched on when I started this evening, making sure that we go out, we're at those ribbon cuttings. I mean, it's, you know, it's important to be there. It's important to know that there's people from the community. Sean's done, you know, we go and we meet with as many as we can as time allows. So, and then also identifying key areas for grand list growth. We do have an issue in this community with having available manufacturing space. Our industrial parks are virtually full, if not completely full, and there's just not a lot of land. So making sure that we are thoughtful with the remaining land that is here within this community over the next 10 years, and that's goes hand in hand with the POCD process as well. This is just a slide that I showed the Cheshire High School kids that I thought you guys might appreciate. So based on assessors' records, we have about 2 million square feet under glass. Some of those are hoop houses of growing space in this community. We are the bedding plant capital of Connecticut. Sometimes that kind of gets lost in the shuffle, but it's a really cool business that we do have here, and it does give us something interesting. And this was a quote right here: "Good for you, Cheshire. We already know you're one of the best places to live in Connecticut. You have really fast swimmers, and damn, you have a lot of bedding plants." And so the Cheshire High School kids like that. I do this talk with updates for you know, what's going on, what you folks are working on, the school projects and everything. I go to the business class at Cheshire High School at least 2 or 3 times a year. That's one of it's an interesting to hear what all of the kids have to say about what we're doing up here. So it sheds some light in different areas to this job for sure. So grant management. So this position was changed. Sean changed this position when I was hired back in August. It'll be 3 years this coming August. And so these are all grants that I have worked on, that we have. So it's a pretty extensive list of grants. We're fortunate that this position and the way that our town government is working right now, there's just a lot of money that's out there, and we've been lucky enough to get some of it because historically, demographically, a lot of these grant opportunities didn't exist 5 years ago, we can say, and so now that they do, and so identifying those, applying for those, and then managing them. So it's, you know, it's not just submitting the papers and then getting the money. There's a lot that goes into the management and then actually expending the funds and then working with finance and paying the bills and making sure that we're doing it appropriately. So I won't go through all of these, but you can see, you know, a lot of those have come to town, and we're working on a lot of those projects, and some of those are going to be coming to fruition. The last two are two that I submitted on March 1st, which was the Trails Grant for Mixville Park for $260,000 for the creation of a boardwalk, and then the Bar Planning Grant. That's $100,000. You approved the required 10% match, so it'd be $90,000 from the state of Connecticut, and then there's a $10,000 local share. Going on to the next slide. So there's about $6.8 million of grants in management. I broke out the $1.5 million. That was a Department of Housing grant for rehabilitation of the housing units over at Beachport. That work is ongoing right now. And then also the 360 are those last two grants that we haven't gotten, but I'm just going to assume that we're going to get them. So that brings us to $8,680,000. And so there's a lot of money coming in, and we're able to do a lot of great things for the community and not actually have our local taxpayers paying for those. So I think that that's a great story to be able to tell. They're all state of Connecticut and or federal sources. So is there any, do you want me to stop? Yep.
Thank you so much for doing that. I think that's really great. I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
You're saying that the grants were not available 5 years ago. Where are these grants coming from? I know that they're state and federal. Is this part of, can you just expand upon that a little bit?
Sure. So a lot of them are from the COVID money. So there's COVID money that's available. The state has additional funding that was available there. So going after some of those funding for some of these projects. Steep grants have always been available from the state based on population. There were 2 years that those funding rounds weren't open, so we didn't go after those. But the town has been successful. So basically, any community under a certain population threshold is able to apply for those grants up to $500,000. So we did the Willow West Main Street, which is the sidewalk project, which is just wrapping now, and then we also have the funding to do the splash pad, which we're under design now for construction this coming summer. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay, and also there's DECD brownfield funding,
Yeah.
which historically we didn't go after because we didn't have a project in order to check the boxes for those applications, which we do have at Ball and Socket. So other communities have been super successful in going after those. I'll just point to Waterbury because I know it well enough that, you know, there's projects there that every year they apply to those brownfield funding rounds and they're able to get the brownfield funding. So we're in the mix now, and so we're able to be successful in applying for and getting the funding for those projects because we do have proof of concept with our brownfields remediation project here.
Great, thank you. I have one more follow-up.
Sure.
If some of this is COVID, and I'm assuming you don't have a crystal ball in your office, is there any way of knowing what may or may not be available in the future?
I couldn't answer that.
Okay.
But we'll continue to, you know, as time goes on, we'll continue to look at all different funding sources and different grant opportunities that are available, whether it be, you know, additional brownfield money, whether it be planning money through the state, or whether it be through other funding sources.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Keep going. All right, so now I'm gonna switch gears over to town beautification. So town beautification has a budget, which they're fortunate enough to have. I'd be lying if I told you exactly how town beautification budget started here in the community. But from going back through some of the old budget books, it looks like there were just projects that were done that were put through town beautification. The committee was established. Bill Bonaminio has been the chairman since the 1980s. And they've done a lot of very successful beautification efforts across the town over the years. So I had asked for an increase last year by the town council, which we were able to get, and I'll touch a little bit on that now. This is just something that I pulled out of the International Economic Development Council, and it's a quote, and I'll just read it quick if I could. Simply put, beauty adds value to the community. The appearance of a community is one of the foremost influences of value and hence one of its most regarded assets. Residents take pride in their community and its attractive and interesting places. Businesses also like to locate in attractive environments, which improve their ability to recruit employees, host clients and investors, and continue to invest in their facilities. And so, you know, it's not a huge part of this budget, but I know every dollar counts, and so I just wanted to make sure to just reiterate that going into the next slides here in this presentation. So the town beautification budget can be found in your budget book on, let's see, where are you? Page 73. 73 and 74. So you could take a look at the budget book there, but I broke out the actual sections from there and created a little spreadsheet here for you to take a look at. So what we've been doing with this town beautification budget, there was, for years, what the town was doing was we were trimming Bradford pear trees up and down Route 10. So I know we all know about Bradford pear trees, and so, but it is what it is. And so that was one of the things that town beautification changed kind of their focus in the past couple of years, was to start to look at removing some of the Bradford pear trees and looking at how we could use some of those funds better. So we were spending about $9,000 a year. We would trim the Bradford pear trees from the Hamden town line to the town center one year, and then the next year we would trim from the town center to the Southington town line. So those trees were all planted over the different eras, but we were trimming trees at the Stop and Shop Plaza, at the Big Y Plaza, other properties across the town. What I noticed when I started this job is that a lot of the people who we had those agreements, which I couldn't tell you where those agreements are, but wherever all of that lived, I couldn't tell you. And so we were actually finding that, for instance, Stop and Shop landscapers were trimming the trees themselves. And so Big Y was taking trees down. And so we kind of looked at that and we halted doing that work, okay? So last year was the first year we didn't trim. We actually took down several Bradford pear trees on properties in town. So we did that. They were diseased. They needed to go. We took those down. And then we trimmed all the trees at the parklets. So that would be the town, the Main Street parklet here at the corner of Maple Avenue, and then the other parklet at the on the corner of Route 10 and Maple there, and then also over on Cook Hill Road, and then at the library too. So that was what we did, and so the focus began to go from doing that to doing a community-based project, whether that be upgrades to, and I'll run through a couple of different projects that we've done over the past 3 years. But what we also do is that all the planters that you see up and down West Main Street, then also here at Town Hall, all of those flowers that are planted there and changed out 3 times a year, they're planted by town beautification members. We do purchase the items which are planted in there, and then we pay Abilities Without Boundaries to water those plants. And so the increase in this budget this year is based on the minimum wage increase for watering those plants. They're watered twice a week for about 5 months. So we have a gentleman, Jerry, who comes to the building and he waters these plants. He goes down to West Main Street, fills up the different buckets there, and waters the planters there. Once those flowers do die, then we replant them. We replace them with greenery for the winter, and then it also covers some of the other beautification efforts here at Town Hall, the garland on the back posts, the wreaths on the building for the month of January and December. So that's beautification kind of in a nutshell. There's other things that we do. Just going to show you, like, for instance, the Welcome to Cheshire signs that you see around town. The picture on the top left is the way that sign looked up until last year. We had that sign reconditioned and put back out. All of the poles with the hanging Welcome to Cheshire signs that are on Route 10, on Route 70, and then out towards Bishop Farms, those are all going to be painted this year as well. And then there's going to be some additional upgrades just for the plantings at the Welcome to Cheshire signs for the different entrance points into the community. For the community-based enhancement projects, the first project that we did, which was in 2021, this is the year that we, I don't know why I just did that, but, so this was the Cheshire Community Pool, which you have. This is the way that we found the building on the left. And then this is what we did. We installed the Belgian block pavers, removed some of the lawn, but this was kind of twofold. Not only did it help to improve the attractiveness of the pool facility, but it also fixed, there was a major drainage issue out there. There were downspouts on the building that we were able to tie into the catch basin there to stop the area from flooding, and then replanted the grass, and then planted several native trees out in front of the building. Also repainted the sign and the entranceway. The picture on the left is the way that it looked, and the picture on the right is the way that it looks now. And then did some just general enhancements around there's a stone there that talks about the quality of the Cheshire swim team that had gotten overgrown over the years. We were able to clean all of that up. Moving into 2022, we redid the landscaping at the Cheshire Public Library. You know, there were really good intentions, I think, over the years with the landscaping at the library, but unfortunately it had gotten past its prime. It had overgrown to the point where Public Works couldn't necessarily identify what was a weed and what was a flower, and to keep it looking attractive. And also, you don't want that much moisture against a masonry building that's full of books. And so kind of pulling some of that back, putting in some steel edging in order to be able to mow directly up to it, kind of reducing the maintenance of the landscaping for the building, but also keeping it attractive. Again, left and right, you can see some of the work that was done there. And then this is, I'm standing in the exact same point. On the left is the way that it looked in the springtime, or in the summer. And then on the right is after we did the landscaping improvements there. We put geotechnical fabric in, cleaned out the drainage, put in some stone, and then put in some low maintenance landscaping there. And that's the way that it still looks today. Last year, what we did was we did the Gateway Parklet, which is at the corner of Maple Avenue, just right after the Cumberland Farms. We redid the irrigation system there. We put it on timers, and so it comes on automatically versus somebody having to manually turn it on, which is the way that system was originally installed. Relined some of the heads, trimmed, removed, re-edged, remulched, planted some annual flowers, and really that picture on the left was the way that it looked when we found it, and that's the way that it looks now. And so, you know, this was about an $8,000 project that the town beautification, they spent a lot of time, volunteers spent a lot of time identifying, and then we did hire a contractor who came out to do some of the work to help to supplement Public Works' efforts at that property. So moving into 2024, and I can go back if you have any questions, just let me know. Moving into 2024, what they're looking to do this year is to do a South Main Street tree project. And so this is, they've identified, I'm saying right place, right size tree. So basically identifying properties. I don't know why this is moving itself. Identifying properties on South Main Street from King Road to North Brooksvale Road to plant street trees. And so these are going to be planted on private property. There's a plan. There's a spreadsheet of trees, property owners that we've talked to. It would be a contract that would be between the town of Cheshire and the individual property owners, and so it will be coming to you folks at a future meeting. We've been working with Jeff D'Onofrio to kind of craft what that looks like, what that plan is, roles and responsibilities, the property owner, roles and responsibilities of the town. And this is based on other initiatives of street tree plantings in other communities that the town attorney has worked on. So it's a new initiative, it's a new project, and so it's going to come to you guys, and Town Beautification will be doing a presentation on that and also on the trees. We are doing only native and hybrid trees for those plantings. So the idea is that instead of going through, and I'll just be honest with you, I know Bradford pears. I don't want to see us just go out and cut down all the Bradford pears, because I think that it would just be devastating. I think that you're going to end up getting a lot more flack, but removing the Bradford pears with a plan to replace those trees, I think that if we do it in kind of a systematic approach, you're going to continue to keep the greenery on Route 10, because if you went out right now and you got rid of all the Bradford pears, it would look really awful. I mean, I'll just be honest with you. And, times change, and Bradford pear was like the vogue tree that everyone planted in landscaping and all around, and then they find out that it's invasive and it's got an awful smell to it, and, it's a whole thing. So I've learned a lot about trees. In the
Yeah, no, I know.
past.
Again, so it's not,
I didn't realize economic development, but it
we're not
is
going
what
to
it is.
get rid of them
I'm doing
right
the best
away,
I can.
but they'd be systematically removed, potentially swapped out as we go as part of this project.
Yes. That's the whole idea is that we start, so down on South Main Street, there's Bradford pear trees that still exist at the Family Dollar, or at the Dollar Tree, McDonald's across the street where Dunkin' Donuts used to be, the gas station on the corner, South Side where the deli is. All of those Bradford pears were all planted by Town Beautification over the years. And so we've been talking to those property owners about removing and replacing those trees with native species that are appropriate to be planted either on, the main focus is going to be, and you'll hear all this, but the main focus is going to be on the east side of Route 10 where there's not power lines. So you could plant, so like on the Ricky properties that are there, on the former Sweet Claude's property, McDonald's property, all of those, there's not overhead power lines. And so starting with those properties there and then removing some and then planting trees that are right sized for power lines based on, they're using the guidance of the Yukon Urban Tree Selection Manual, which is from the College of Agricultural and Natural Resources, as their guide. So as Town Beautification is.
I think it's also, as far as the trees go, it isn't just that they're sort of out of favor, but they're also, I think the life of them is 20 to 30 years, right? Which means we're about there now, right?
We're about there, and also, the amount of pruning that they require, because they're not very sturdy trees. I mean, like if they just snap, and you'll see like whole sections of the tree break off. So, and Town Beautification isn't just about that, it's also about education. So we were at the Home Health and Garden Show this past weekend. We had a booth there, and we were planting plants with all the kids who came in. This is one of our members' nieces who assisted with all of the planting. And, they're also about education and advocacy for the environment here in the community. So that's Town Beautification, and I could circle back to any of these, but I just wanted to finish up with Historic District Commission, which is also in the budget here.
Andrew?
Yep.
Before you go on, just a question.
Sure.
Is that in the budget, is this the yearly community beautification project?
That's the whole budget for Town Beautification.
Okay, so
the 25,
but there's a 12,500 item for a yearly community beautification project.
Yes. So that would be for the street trees.
Okay, and the 3,500 is just tree replacement, for existing things.
For existing things, and so that would be mulch. That would be we do the courtyard here at Town Hall. Some work at the library to supplement Public Works' efforts, and that's something that I want to make sure that I touch on is that Dan Bombero comes to the Town Beautification meetings. We actually have been working on putting together kind of a list of what they would like to see and then what we can do with Public Works. I mean, being mindful of staff. They're not all gardeners, and we want the town to look the best that we can, but we also have to be realistic because there's a budget. But For instance, we have growers in town that donate the red, white, and blue flowers for the Memorial Day parade that we work with. So Bill Bonominio will actually go and pick up some of those flowers, but we want to make sure that everything is timed appropriately so it's not a mad dash to get Route 10 ready for Memorial Day. So the red, white, and blue flowers are planted at Bartlam Park for that, for the Veterans Memorial here in the center of town. So there's a lot of like, you know, I didn't realize that you have to leave daffodils up until they die, and so I was like, cut those out of there, and then I got in trouble for that. So it's like, you know, kind of coordinating and making sure that everything is done. Then finally, let me just go back through this, Historic District Commission. And so the Historic District Commission, as I had mentioned before, covers the town center and then out in the South Brooksvale area of town. So there's properties that are there, which if you're a property owner and there's certain things that you're going to be doing to your property, you need to file what's known as a certificate of appropriateness. The COA is triggered by a building permit. So if you are to come to the town hall and you live at 121 Cornwall Avenue, it immediately is flagged in the town system that it has to get Historic District Commission approval. So I get an email from the building department. We work with the property owner. They come in, and it's either going to be general repair or they have to actually go through a public hearing process. And so if it's a roof replacement because there's a leak, that's considered emergency repair. It doesn't have to go through a public hearing process. But if you wanted to take your historic clapboard siding off of your house and replace it with vinyl siding, that is something that, or window replacements. And so there's a whole manual, and we've really been working through those documents over the past year to make them a little bit more user-friendly, following the guidance of the Department of the Interior. We have, I think, a very reasonable historic district here in town. I've seen others that are very difficult to deal with, and so we try to work with the property owners, educate them on what needs to be done, and walk them through that process. We're lucky to have so many historic homes still in existence in the town. So it's not always the easiest thing in the world, but it is. I think it's very important to the fabric of the community. So the budget there is just for legal notices. So I'm the only staff liaison for that, and then it's a volunteer commission for all of the different functions of the Historic District Commission. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to go back to any slides or dive into any of the different items that I went through. I know it's like a lot of information, so I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Andrew.
Sure.
First of all, as a small business owner in this town, I appreciate everything you do, as I'm sure other business owners, Mr. Darter and others, do as well. People don't realize how much work you actually do, I don't think, but I see it. I see you doing a lot, and I hear a lot about things that you're doing, and I just want to let you know from the business community, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm lucky enough to have a lot of clients within the town of Cheshire, but I also am lucky enough to have clients come from as far away as Litchfield, Greenwich, Vernon, Mystic, who've come to my office, and first time ever in Cheshire, and saying what a beautiful town this is, and where is a good place to eat, and that's what I really like to see, because people are hearing how good things are, or seeing for themselves, because the beautification. I gave you a hard time, I think, last year when we were talking about the parklet, saying, oh, it's 12,000, but I'll eat my words on that. You did a good job on that, and I think it's important, like you said, to make sure that the town looks beautiful, and you're doing a good job at that. And I will say, Dr. Solon may need to change his line where people don't come here for the nightlife, because I think they're going to be coming here for the nightlife. There's a lot of people moving into this town who aren't moving in because they have kids going to the schools. They're moving in because they like what Cheshire is offering them. And I think that's a credit to what you have been doing. So I just wanted to make a comment and say I appreciate everything you're doing. And I think,
Thank you.
With the amount of money and grants you're getting us, it really is helping us save a lot of money and move projects along, which is great. One quick question, though. I know Mike Glidden talked about it too. the north end estate property, how far along are we with that? And how long before we think something may be happening up there?
Right, so we're waiting for this legislative session to be complete. And so the idea of that, or the reason why we're waiting for that is we're trying to get additional acreage. And so we want to have that additional acreage before we issue the RFP. So that's the only reason why that it hasn't been issued yet. So we've been working on this, as you know, for quite some time. And so we have every indication that we will be getting that. And so as soon as we do get the additional acreage, we'll be able to issue the RFP. There will be a process for that. I'm not exactly certain how long that would take, but you could, I guess, surmise it could be a few months. And then it's going to fall down to like what the community wants, because the playing field is going to be level. So the sales price for that property is going to be $2,060,000 for everybody. So it's going to be based on what those proposals are. And I'm not certain who's going to make the decision as to, what's going to be the best proposal. If it's going to be based on job growth or grand list growth or what the parameters are going to be for that. I think that's going to be the discussion of the planning committee moving forward. Sure.
Thanks, Andrew, and I agree with what Don said. We enjoy the beauty of the community. I just have a couple of quick questions.
Sure.
You did work at the pool, you've done work at the library. How do you decide what is Public Works responsibility versus what goes to this beautification budget and what you take on through beautification? I'm just curious. I mean, it's all our dollars, so it doesn't
Right.
matter really, but I'm just curious how you
So
do that.
those two projects with the pool, that was based on us wanting to simplify the landscape and just that we had the money. So the beautification had the money. It wasn't programmed, to mowing. It wasn't programmed to capital equipment. And so they identified that they wanted to do the Belgian block set in concrete, which necessarily wouldn't have been something that Public Works would do. But how that's decided, it's based on looking at the different facilities in town, what's able to be funded through beautification or what's able to be funded through Public Works. And so how the history of all of that came to be, I don't really know. But like with the pool, that was a project, they identified it. When I started this job, they had already met with Sheila and they had already started the ball rolling with that. With the library, that was honestly something that I was there at the library and I knew we had that budget for that year. And I said, like, we need to do something. This meeting with Beth had been working to try to get, but it was just too much for anybody to take care of. And that's why, like, with this process now, we're trying to identify, okay, so this is our project now. So we've done some of these kind of one-off type projects at public buildings. Now it's like, this is something that they really wanted to do for overall appearance of the community. That's not a Public Works type of a function, and that's the planting of the trees. And I think that moving forward, like, for instance, with the parklets, all of the parklets have been built between the 80s and 90s. They do need some refresh to go on those. And so we have some of those money. And so instead of having the Public Works guys kind of do it, this committee is able to kind of drive that, hire somebody to actually do the work that maybe Public Works staff can't do. I don't know if that answers your question entirely, but that's just kind of the way that it's been working.
No, it answers it. I was just curious because this one, as in response to Dave's question, you said it's very specific what you intend to do for this project, and it's not a Public Works project, clearly. But I was curious. Those other ones seem like they're hybrids, so I didn't know how they came about. And then the north end, I'm following up on Don's question. I'm happy that we are waiting. Hopefully we'll have good news, and it'll be more productive in terms of the value to the town for that land in terms of development potential and tax revenue. And I don't want to get into a lot of specifics, but are we pursuing any other land out there? You don't have to answer the question directly, but I just raised that because it does open up a little bit more opportunity.
Right.
Are we considering that?
So we haven't, let's see. So no, we have not actually met with them to go for more land. But I think that once we know we're getting the state land, then that's going to open up that conversation. I have talked to him, the property owner, just because I know him personally, but not as a representative of the town.
I think that I'd like to see us at least consider that because
Absolutely.
it does create added value if we if we're able to pull that together. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. And I just wanted to echo what I said to Mike Glidden, too. Thank you for supporting our committees and commissions. We have some incredibly dedicated folks in this
Absolutely.
town who have a great deal of talent, and so you're working with them to allow them to bring their knowledge, their expertise to our assistants. Appreciate all of that. And
Absolutely.
the almost $9 million in grants, I mean, kudos, thank you. As someone who has managed a federal grant, I know how difficult they are to manage and the reporting, and so it's not only the obtaining the grants, but the managing of all of these incredibly diverse grants as well. The BAR grant, the Trails grant for Mixville, the Bartlam grants, I mean, all of these are adding to our town, to echoing what Don said. I mean, this is-
I have really good files. I mean, I mean that's honestly, but there's, you know, it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
But
no.
we also have a really great finance department, so I can't take all the credit for
Well,
that.
collectively, appreciate you all
Sure.
in all of this. This is an incredible asset for our town, so we appreciate all the work that you're doing.
Okay. You're welcome.
So just to speak on the beautification committee stuff, I'm really happy that we're supporting that, or I think we'll be supporting that. I mean, it's one of our commissions that actually gets their hands dirty. You know, they literally do the work. And it's a really important function. I mean, you know, some people may be wondering why we spend $25,000 on mulch and tree pruning, but, you know, the town not doing that can lead to disinvestment by businesses, disinvestment by homeowners. So it's a really small investment that we get a lot out of. So it's good that we support that. But thank you, Mike and Andrew. You guys, obviously, our planning and economic development team is very strong, and you guys, you know, you can tell by what's happening in town that you guys are doing really good work. So thank you.
Appreciate it.
Do you have anything else?
Yeah.
Okay.
Andrew, thank you. My favorite comment was the one you made right up front, where you said that you visit existing businesses as well as the new ones. I think it's important. It's something that all of us up here know, but I think it's important for the public to know that not only are we attracting businesses, we're making sure they're happy and productive here, and we're doing everything we can to maintain their business here. So
Absolutely.
thank you
And
for all that you do.
You're welcome, and that's another thing that I didn't mention, that we do have Business Appreciation Day, which is going to be June 21st this year, and so that's also in our budget, in this budget, and so we're able to host a breakfast to thank all of our local businesses free of charge for them, which is just a nice thing that the town does. I inherited that. I just thought that was really great. That's always been part of the budget. And then just real quick with the beautification thing is that Cheshire's just, it's a nice town. I think that, like, that's, you know, if you go anywhere in the state, everyone says it's a nice town, but like Jim kind of pointed on, like, it could slide really easily. And so having just that little bit of money to do things like painting the posts that say "Welcome to Cheshire" or refreshing the "Welcome to Cheshire" sign, it shows that we want to look nice. And I think that kind of becomes contagious for the community as in general. So I think it's money well spent.
I just want to echo what everybody has said, and what you bring to Cheshire as a collective group, the administration. I'm so proud to learn more about what you guys do, and we love the fact that we moved to Cheshire, and it's only been getting more amazing since we've lived here, and it's because of you guys. So thank you so much. The stuff that's going on in Cheshire, not just the North End, although I know that's bright and shiny and I can't wait to see it, but Ball and Socket, what you're planning to do on Route 70, just the beautification that's been going on around town is so incredibly appreciated, and it's only going to exponentially grow. And any way that we can support you in the beautification, the budget is amazing at 25 for what it brings back to the town is 10 times that if you were to put a price on it. And thank you to everybody. You're just an amazing group of people to watch groom this town into just, I love watching it grow. Thank you.
Appreciate that. All right, thank you.
So next we have building, the building inspection office, right?
Yes.
Welcome, Tom.
Correct.
Somebody else has been very busy, right? Right, Tom?
Very, very busy. As Sean hears every month during our department head meeting. So just for the record, Tom Lozier, building official, here to present my budget for the building inspection department.
Just before we get started, this, in case you're looking for it in the budget book, this is under the public safety tab of the budget. So you'll actually see this after police and fire, starting on page 112 of the horizontal book. Thank you.
Good point, Sean. Yes, we are part of public safety. You know, we're on the front lines every day doing inspections, processing permits. Our mission statement is to guard the safety, health, and welfare of the community through communication, education, enforcement of the state of Connecticut building codes. The building inspection department is responsible for reviewing all permit applications and building plans to construct, add, or alter buildings and structures here in town. The department also issues demolition, building, plumbing, electrical, tank, HVAC, and sewer permits. The building inspection department collects all associated permits, permit fees, and zoning fees. Professional staff performs plan reviews, conducts inspections on all issued permits, and responds to complaints reported by the public. Staff also responds to emergency situations, such as fires, structured involved motor vehicles, accidents, and storm damage. So just a quick administrative overview. There's one building official, that's myself, 4 assistant building officials, and 1 administrative assistant. So on the next slide, we're just looking at payments collected. And just for comparison, we pulled up February of '23, which is usually our slow time. We collected $69,000 last February. This February, it was $159,000. So the permit fees are coming in exponentially. It's unbelievable. So, and our busy time in August was $204,000. That's just for 1 month. Thank God we have a really good permit software, so we're able to track everything and work closely, you know, with collecting fees. Valuations of permits. So on the right-hand side, you'll see 27. That's $27 million in permit valuation. So that's a valuation of projects. With 45 million collected. So for building permits, we had 843, electrical permits, 772, plumbing permits, 348, tank permits, 228, sewer permits, 54, 492 for mechanical, 34 foundation only, almost 3,000 permits, and that's for 4 inspectors. That's a lot of work for our small staff. So our town is growing by leaps and bounds, so must the size of our inspection team and our fleet, just to be able to keep up with what's going on. All the hard work that Andrew and Michael are doing, that all ends up in my lap in our office for us to move forward and bring it to, someone had mentioned earlier, CO. So from the ground up, that's all the building department. And the fire department also, too, fire marshal. So we do have increases especially within our personnel services, we did add, so slowly we've been trying to keep up with the growth. So at first, we moved our employees to 40 hours. And then we added a part-timer. And just recently, thank God for you guys, we were able to bring on another full position. That person is going to start April 15th. So that's going to help us immensely to keep up with the growth. So on this page, you will see increases, but that's mostly because of the added employees, and you know, the salary adjustments, the overtime. I had to bump that up a little bit. We have some employees that have longevity, so they're going to be getting salary performance awards. So that's where those increases have come from. Again, just myself, one building official. We'll have we have 3 assistant building officials, 1 admin, and a part-time building official. Under the general fund, again, the reason for the increase is the extra employee. So we have to purchase laptops. We have to add a phone for that individual. You'll see code consultants. In order to keep up, once in a while, we have to have third-party reviews that the town has to pay for some of these larger projects. Automotive maintenance, we were able to pick up a used vehicle from the park department, which needed repairs, and we need to maintain our vehicles, keep them safe, brakes, tires, so on and so forth. There was a reduction for the electronic scanning. That project's almost complete, and what we're trying to do is just keep 5,000 as an earmark, just so if some plans pop up, we can have them scanned in and make them part of the iDrive. This next page is, we put in $42,000 for an extra vehicle, and we were able to get a used vehicle. I guess you can call it in its place. So we do have 5 inspectors, but only 4 vehicles. So I just wanted to kind of highlight this page just so you may see it again next year. We may be asking for a vehicle. What happens is in the morning, we basically go over this 2-page schedule that we have to accommodate, and everyone gets their addresses and their projects. We all go in different directions. And in order to get that done, everyone needs to have their own vehicle. And then the sooner we get our inspections done, the sooner we can get back to the office and start processing permits and returning phone calls and emails and dealing with people at the counter. It's very busy downstairs, and Sean could attest, and Arnett. At this point, I really don't know how we've been keeping up, to be honest with you. But we're making it happen. Again, for supplies, we bumped it up a little bit on supplies and automotive, fuel for vehicles. We're constantly on the road, plus we added an extra vehicle. Safety shoes, reflective vest, training. We're required to have 90 hours every 3 years. Some of the training classes are free online. Others are in person, and we have to pay for those. And, our code books, codes are constantly changing, and add a new employee, we like to get them a couple of code books just to keep, at his desk or in his vehicle. And again, most of these increases are due to the extra staff and the vehicle that we had to bring online. That's all I have. If you guys have any questions, I'm more than willing to answer.
Thanks, Tom. Anyone? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you for that information, Tom. According to my quick calculation, that's 53 inspections a week. It's a lot.
It's a lot for,
So I guess my question is, what is your turnaround time, and is that on par with what the average should be?
yeah, we're about 7 to 10 days out on inspections, and by adding an extra inspector, we're probably gonna try to go from 5 to 7 days out. It's just very difficult because, you know, everyone's important, you know, from the pool that's going in to the 5-story. It's a juggling act. And then dealing with weather and contractors trying to schedule 3 or 4 inspections in a row. They have placeholders, which pushes other folks out. It's very difficult. So that, by adding an extra staff member, we're trying to reduce it. I guess if we were getting any complaints, it would be the amount of time it takes us to get out there. And we don't get many complaints at all, but we work well with contractors. If something, for some reason, cancels, we call that person, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. We call them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are these numbers sustainable, or are they just short-lived because of the huge boost in growth right now?
Yeah, I do not see an end in sight. The projects just keep coming, and they're not small projects. They're big projects. So, you know, Mike had mentioned all the residential apartments. 50 Hazel, I mean, we had 3 floors of apartments, one after another after another. It's just very time-consuming, and I do not see an end in sight. It just, you know, the planner just has one project after another coming our way. And that's, you know, and then we have, you know, Whispering Oaks, we have other just regular single-family developments going on too. We're accommodating, we're making it happen.
And that's sustainable over multiple years?
I hope so, if my staff can, you know.
I meant the development.
Oh, yeah, I mean, again, I don't have a crystal ball, but I think we're gonna be busy for quite some time.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank you for everything you do. I mean, I'm out there, I know what's going on. It's amazing how you keep up. It's just
Welcome.
honestly beyond amazing. And I don't hear many complaints of people that are saying that they can't move forward because the building department's holding them up. And it's a credit to your team and your organization. And it's a tremendous amount of money that we're bringing into our financial picture. And if you look at the building permits and the value of those building permits, the long-term implications of those tax dollars are very large as well. So you're at the forefront of helping the town kind of meet our budget expectations, so thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Tom, thank you. In the beginning, you talked about structure-involved motor vehicle accidents. Does that include poles at all, like poles that are owned by the town? Is
No.
that considered a structure?
No, it's just occupied spaces.
Okay.
Yep, buildings.
All right. Tank permits, is that just for in-ground? The in-ground tanks?
Tanks, yes, above ground,
The-
in the basement, alongside your house, either they're propane or oil. Those are the tank permits.
Okay. And then just, primarily just a curiosity question. On 114, the last line, 5602, which is office equipment, the expenditure this year was 8,000, but you're going back to 500. What was the increase in in office equipment.
Was that the moving to the new?
Oh, the move, okay. Yep.
Thank you. Yes.
Perfect.
The move to downstairs.
Excellent. Tom, thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
please thank your staff as well. You know, you guys have been going 100 miles an hour for a long time. Hopefully, the extra person has slowed you down to maybe 80 or something, but continue to do the great work that you're doing, and please pass along our gratitude to the staff as well.
Will do. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tom. Next, we have Town Clerk Patty King. Welcome.
It'll be next page under Administration and Finance. It should, right at the beginning, page 15, 16. Looks like the summary page is on 13, so just to orient everyone.
Okay, since I'm new to my current position and since some of you are new to the council, I thought I'd give a brief overview of the town clerk's office. And then if you have any specific budget questions, I can answer those as well. So the town clerk and registrar of vital statistics is an elected official with a 2-year term. The department staff includes the town clerk, the deputy town clerk, and an assistant town clerk. Although I have 12 years in the town clerk's office, all 3 of us began our current positions on January 2nd of this year. So it's been an exciting couple of months in our office. I'm happy to report that the current staff is dedicated and capable and shows great care and kindness to our residents every day. Special town clerk funds are used to employ a temporary staff member as needed throughout the year, especially during dog license months and absentee ballot time. We're fortunate to have a capable, kind, efficient individual in this temporary position. Town clerk responsibilities include preserving and facilitating access to all public records, recording, maintaining, and managing land records, maps, public meeting agendas, and minutes. This year, we have applied for the Historic Documents Preservation Grant for $7,500 to complete the ongoing project of digitizing land records back to Volume 1, the year 1780, to allow increased public access to the land records online. The 5-year contract with our land records company, InfoQuick Solutions, or IQS, was due to expire in February 2024, but IQS offered us an extension through June at the same price. You'll be hearing from me again in May to ask for the approval of our new 5-year contract with IQS, which I will be strongly endorsing, as IQS has been a stellar company to work with for the care of our land records. The town clerk is also responsible for the collection of town and state conveyance taxes and processes trade name certificates, liquor permits, and dog licenses. As registrar of vital statistics, we issue marriage licenses, burial and cremation permits, and certified birth, marriage, and death records. This office also issues absentee ballots and works closely with the registrars of voters in the electoral process. We will be implementing the updated Connecticut voter registration system and election management system planned for July of this year. Along with the registrars, we will co-administer the 2024 presidential preference primary in April, the primary in August, and the election in November. During the historic first early voting in Connecticut this year, which started today, by the way, The town clerk will be part of the chain of custody of early voting ballots to keep them safe and secure in the town clerk vault. Additional temporary staff will be hired as needed with the special town clerk funds to aid in the handling of an anticipated large number of absentee ballots for the November election. Our budget does not have many changes. The two main increases in our budget are for the new land record contract and the books that go along with that, and printing ballots for the November election. I thank you for listening, and thank you for your service to this town. I'd like to warmly welcome any town council members, as well as any interested residents, to visit our office and our vault for a first-hand look at all that goes on in the town clerk's office. If you have any questions about the office or our budget, I'm happy to answer your questions.
You can unlock the vault from the inside, I assume, right? No? Any questions for Patty? No? You had a question, Peter. I knew you did. Yeah.
I'm not going to let Patty get away without, it's your first time. You got to field some questions, right?
I'm here for it, Peter.
First of all, thank you. I love the way you've jumped on board with everything, but the thing I see most is the dreaded, and Dave and Greg know the work that goes into the boards and commissions. So thank you for getting that up to speed and where it should be, and keeping us in line, which is what we really needed. Patty, just a quick question with regard to overtime on page 15, 5105. Just, it's going up 3,000. So what's, just some background.
Right.
Is a lot of that elections, or am I assuming?
We actually talked about dropping that number, but with the unknown of November's election, we felt it was safer to keep it as is. I don't anticipate using that much. It had originally, for 2023, if I remember correctly, it had originally been up around 6,000. It was lowered for this year. We brought it back to 6,000 only because of the presidential the presidential primary in presidential election in November.
Yeah.
That uses up a lot of extra hours. However, with the town clerk fund going toward temporary staff, we may not need that extensive overtime. Most likely, we will not.
And then page 16, the 5409, I think I heard you say that the contractual services was the group that's doing the digitizing for you guys, right?
They are indeed, yes.
Okay.
IQS is doing that project for both our historic grant and our ongoing contractual services.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to follow up with what Peter was saying. With the, is there a way that we could check to see how much overtime was needed in the 2020 election to kind of get an idea? Because, I mean, if you think that that number might be high, even if it's $1,000 off, we'll take $1,000 anywhere we can. But, I mean, if we could just check to see where we were in 2020, because they had primaries and elections and all that stuff, so.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm happy to check that. We also were not using, to the best of my recollection, the temporary staff, which we do have available to us now.
Right, so that number could have, if that was 5,000, you might not even need 5,000 this time since you have temporary staff, so.
Yes,
okay.
I'm happy to check that
All
figure.
right, thanks.
I think every year we approve a grant for the digitization project, right? So the grant dollars are actually funding this line here as far as 5409, or no? 5409 being the contractual services.
No, that is for the ongoing day-to-day land records. So the 7,500 is above and beyond that. That's to get our land records back to volume 1 online.
Right, okay, gotcha. All right. Go ahead, Dave.
Just for clarification, I think the last grant that we just approved recently for the council, wasn't that to take us back to volume 1?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so,
it's in progress now.
right, so when that's done, our land records will be back to the beginning. Now, we may find other things we want to digitize, but it won't be the land records, right, the books? Okay. Is there more things, once you get that, is there more things you're going to need that town clerk fund to do, for digitizing? Is there more things to digitize?
I think I'm going to go away from the digitizing process going forward. I'm going to focus on some additional map cabinets because we're approaching filling those up, as well as working on some of our vital record books are pretty tired and difficult to work with. So the grant next year will probably go toward those types of projects.
Okay, well, good, but thank you also for getting us back to the beginning. Not many towns have that, and that's really, I think that's really helpful for a lot of our town, title searchers and other people checking those things to be able to do that online, so thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we do hear a lot of appreciation for that project, and I have to give a shout out to my predecessor, Laura Brennan, who got us so close back to Volume 1 and just ran out of time, but it's to Laura's credit.
It was a nice handoff to you, so she wanted you to be able to get us over the line, so thank you.
Indeed.
Go ahead, Sean.
Just a quick answer to Mr. Walsh's question. In fiscal +21, which was would have been November of '20 election, the overtime line was budgeted at $6,000 and the actual spent was $5,008.
Great, thank you, Patty.
You're welcome.
Short and sweet. Next, we have the elections.
Good evening.
It's an appropriate day, as today was the first day of early voting, so.
60 people so far.
60 people.
Not bad.
So we're the registrars of voters. I'm Susan Pappas, Tom Smith. And basically today was the first day of early voting and a good turnout so far, but it does involve more hours. And this time it's only 4 days because of Easter and Good Friday. But in November, it will be a full 14 days. So it's definitely giving us a run for our money.
Yeah, it's, I think you'll find looking at the figures, most of our budget's relatively flat. The elephant in the room is the additional labor cost of conducting early voting. Some of it falls in this fiscal year, some of it's going to be a next fiscal year. That's going to be a bookkeeping puzzle for Mr. Jaskett. But the state has given us a grant of $10,000 to spend on anything we need related to early voting. After estimating the number of hours that we think we're going to need to get through this year, by this 2024, I don't mean the fiscal year, most of that $10,000 is going to be eaten up by labor costs. We only have minimal equipment costs related to this. There are only a few minor things that we needed to buy for it. But, apart from that, everything is relatively even going forward from last year, tweaking a few things here and there. There was one thing that I do want to mention, though. We brought it up. We both feel that the base pay of the deputy registrars needs to be raised. If you're unfamiliar with the position, each of us has a deputy. By statute, it's a state law. They're sort of like our second in command. They do an irreplaceable amount of work keeping the office functioning, and according to statute, which is important. They're on the books for 18 hours a week, and that increases whenever there's an election event coming up. They receive no benefits, and honestly, we can't attract or retain intelligent people to keep doing that job at the current rate. So we'd appreciate it if we could get their base rate raised at $20 an hour. And we think it's a modest increase, and Mr. Kimball suggested we investigate what other towns with comparable voting populations pay their deputies. Most of them pay $20 or slightly above that. Towns would include Groton, Rocky Hill, North Haven, Weathersfield, and Simsbury. Glastonbury pays $24, Westport pays $27. So as far as we're concerned, it's an issue of fairness in retaining good workers and ensuring the long-term stability of our office. Our job's getting increasingly complex. As we've just discussed, the number of hours is going up exponentially. So the people who do this job need to be compensated better if we expect people to take the job and continue to do it. We have great staff, and we like to keep them. Do you have anything to add?
No. Do you have any questions?
Oh, thank you both, Ryan. I know you have a very difficult job and you have a lot of stuff to oversee. Question, in the budget here, so that it's recommended for deputies 39,527. Is that contemplating a raise to the, is that contemplating a raise to 2024? What does that represent?
Yes, it does. So the requested raise that the registrars presented to me, I did fund in the budget as requested.
Okay, so what does that come out as an hourly rate?
$20 an hour for the
It's about 20. I think it's between $20 and $22 an hour. I'd have to confirm. I think one has more tenure than the other, so we decided to fund one respecting
Gotcha.
the additional tenure. So that's why you see a difference between the 20,807 and the 18,720. But yeah, it's somewhere in the $20 to $21 an hour range.
Okay, so that bumps it up there. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that is contemplating the raise that you're looking for is already in the proposal.
That's
Okay.
correct.
We would
We just
appreciate
wanted
that
to
you keep
explain
it.
our way
Yeah.
of thinking about it.
Right, no, and I think that makes sense. The other question is, with all these new requirements, that is the presidential primary early voting, and you're going to have 14, is there additional temporary staff that you need to add? How are you planning to cover 14 days worth of coverage?
It's coming out of the grant.
Okay,
At least in part it will.
right. But that's paying.
This time.
Yeah, right.
Because this may be a one-time grant.
Exactly. That's and I know that I wasn't in favor of this grant, not because I don't want the money, but because my fear with this with the state is that this is going to be another unfunded mandate that's going to obviously be another expense that we're going to have to cover going forward with the number of days that they've imposed upon this early voting.
They
But I
can
was
also
just
roll it back.
Right.
I mean, they have the option of rolling it back from 14 in the future.
right, and that will hopefully we'll see that. But
The Secretary of State was on record as recommending 10, but the legislature deemed that 14 was what they wanted to go with.
Right. The question is going to be, though, what is the financial impact on municipalities going forward?
Remains to be seen.
And I just wanted to find out, so is that 10,000 going to be used to pay like temporary, like bring in some other temporary staff to do that?
Well, they're all temporary.
Yeah,
Right.
everybody's
Yeah.
temporary.
Right. But I mean, you have to bring in people to cover that.
Days, at least 14 days of people.
Right.
Think of them as additional poll workers.
Right, exactly. But you got to cover a lot of time.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Incidentally, if anybody knows anybody that wants to work at the polls, please contact us.
Yeah. Yes. Let's hope we can cover that amount of time. So thank you.
Just to quickly clarify my response, the 18,720, that represents $20 an hour. So the other one is about $22 an hour as the differential, as proposed.
Thank you, guys, and I appreciate all you do. And I know, we had talked last year in personnel about the hours that you guys put in. Now, you work different days of the week, right? So there's somebody always there, pretty much? Except you both work on one certain day?
Friday, we work together, yeah.
Yeah, I have a good memory. Now, with the early voting, can you just go, so all the public who are here and listening at home know the 14 days, I mean, times and days of the week that those will be, so that, I mean, I'm sure that it's posted in the Cheshire Herald or wherever, but it might be nice to let people know those days too, so.
We put it in the news immediately on the town website for what that's worth, you know, as a public notice. We want to make sure everybody is aware of it. I think that the media could have done a bit better job of publicizing this. I looked at the various evening news broadcasts online, and I think only one of the Connecticut stations had mentioned it earlier in the day.
Do you have to stay within, like, whatever the state tells you, the days and times, or you
Yes.
can make, so, okay.
Yeah, for this, the first rollout, it would have been longer, but Easter and Good Friday came,
Will this increase your hours as well
yes.
Yeah.
for this time? So you just have to take off some, or down the line?
Well, but then
Right, and I get it.
then the work needs to get done.
Yep, okay, all right, thanks.
Tom and Susan, thank you. Actually, this, I'll kick this probably to Sean. Sean, the $10,000 grant from the state, then, did we capture that in revenue?
That's a Jim
Sure.
question.
It's going to be general fund revenue the way I anticipate it, and since this is going to go over 2 fiscal years, part of it will be used this year and get reported as revenue this year, and part of it will be reported next year.
Oh, that's right, because, yeah, because you got the primary, so, yeah.
I'll double check that I'm quite certain we covered that in our miscellaneous grants, and I'll double check that and get back to you if I did. I'm quite certain we did.
Okay. And what's the the current hourly rate for the deputy registrars?
One, sure, one is making like 17, let's see, do you have it?
1644, this is from 2/9/24, and I have 1644 and 1867.
Okay,
So that's fairly low.
yeah. Yep. Thank you, and good luck. It's your busy season. Actually started today, as you mentioned, to kick it off, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
I just had a couple quick questions,
Sorry.
sorry. As far as the tabulation machines, are you guys responsible for the functioning of those?
Well, yes, we have, you'll notice like a maintenance contract.
Yeah.
That we've been paying, $10,000 for the, and what that entitles basically is for any machine that goes down, they replace it, or they'll give us a loan or what have you. But, this year, supposedly we're getting new machines. The Secretary of State is reviewing all the proposals for new machines. And the problem is they don't know whether, once they pick a vendor, can the vendor actually produce the machines by November?
Oh,
So they're
okay.
not sure. But the machines that we have are really not in good shape. They've reached the end of their usefulness. Some of them actually melted, the rollers melted when we had a primary 2 years ago. Was it 2 years, I think?
Yeah, in the,
And it was in
the schools.
August, and it was in the schools, which most aren't air-conditioned. So because it was so terribly hot, some of the rollers melted. And you'd put a ballot in, and you'd get all sorts of markings on the ballot because it was actually melting.
Right.
It also caused other malfunctions of the tabulators. So hopefully we will get new machines, and then depending on what we get, it'll be the maintenance contract. Sometimes these machines, the Secretary of State covered the maintenance for, I think it was 2 years. So we didn't have any maintenance costs.
Yeah, the Secretary of State's been lobbying very hard for the legislature, very hard to fund a new generation of machines, but, you know, it seems like the legislature's a step behind in all of this. So we desperately need them, and we hope that the legislators move quickly. 'Cause we
Right,
really-
okay, good. I mean, it seems like each election, we seem to have more and more issues, it seems, and
Yeah.
these days with election integrity being questioned, the last thing we need is our machines kind of, breaking down every 5 minutes, so. it's good to hear that it's, at least perhaps on the way at some point.
Yeah, well, the secretary is really a strong advocate for all the registrars in the state, and we appreciate that, but, we need the machines like yesterday.
One other question I have is as far as in the vertical book here, it says 67% of our residents are registered to vote. Is that how does that compare to other towns of our type? Not really sure. I was surprised it was that low, actually.
We have about 19,000 voters, a little over 19,000.
So they match that against how many, what they
Oh,
are.
it's right,
Yeah,
voting
not
age,
voting age.
right.
Yeah, so some are, incapable or, not, some are
Right.
of age and whatnot.
Right. Okay. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Next, we have Human Services.
It was there. Yeah, I was hoping nobody saw my desktop. Ignore the 3,000 icons on my desktop right now. It's very organized. It's all very organized for somebody.
Everything is fine.
Everything is just fine. Set up the right way. I'm assuming that bottom.
I think that,
Okay.
I'm not
Okay.
touching the remote again, so.
Okay. Excellent.
It eventually will go away.
I am not from the IT department, so as you'll see. Good evening. My name is Michelle Picarillo. I am the Human Services Director for the town of Cheshire. And I'm here tonight to talk about Human Services and give you an overview of our department and what we do, and then talk about some of the budget requests that we've made this year. Really looking forward to working with all of you. Some familiar faces and some new faces, so welcome. So the Human Services Department, our mission is to support the social, emotional, and physical well-being of Cheshire residents across the lifespan. We have 4 divisions: the Youth Services Division, the Social Services Division, the Senior and Transportation Services Division, and Crisis Intervention Services. Part of our Youth Services Division is our Youth and Family Counseling Division. We have 2 licensed clinicians. One is a licensed marriage and family therapist, and one is a licensed clinical social worker. I myself am also a clinician who is a licensed marriage and family therapist. I do minimal clinical work just because I don't have time, because I have too many administrative responsibilities. But we offer quality mental health counseling to Cheshire youth and families. Any school-age child up to the age of 21 is welcome to use our services. We partner very closely with the school system. We can do in-person office appointments at our beautiful new building that we just moved into last fall. We can go into the schools, and we also offer telehealth appointments as well. We do individual therapy, play therapy, family therapy, on-site school counseling, and when appropriate, we offer a substance abuse education program, which is an alternative to suspension program that we developed in partnership with the schools. So when a young person gets in trouble at school for violating a substance use related policy, they can come to us to reduce their suspension from a 10-day out of school suspension to a 5-day out of school suspension. They come in with a parent or parents, so it ends up being family counseling in a way, and they often stick with us after that program's over. It's only a 4-session program, but they stay with us following that program. We deal with a variety of issues, including self-esteem, emotion regulation, depression, bullying, substance use, and a variety of others. In the last fiscal year, 1,432 hours were dedicated to counseling services provided by our department. The other piece of the Youth Services Division is our Youth Activities Division, where we offer a variety of positive youth development programs out of the Yellow House, which many of you may be familiar with. It's across the street from the high school. So we offer a variety of programs for young people in grades 1st all the way through grade 12. Our goal is to enrich, engage, and empower youth. So these aren't simply just social opportunities for young people. They're opportunities to learn, they're opportunities to volunteer, they're opportunities to mentor. We offer programs that build character, leadership skills, social skills, communication skills. And so our goal with these programs is not only to provide Friday and Saturday night social activities where kids can interact with each other, but also where they are exposed to role models and older young people, and where their interactions with each other are facilitated in such a way that they build strong social skills, they learn to be supportive friends, and to have healthy friendships. This just lists a variety of the programs that we offer. If you go online, you can see, all of those. But we serve approximately 125 young people and youth volunteers each week at the Yellow House. And again, just positive impact on youth development, really trying to connect young people to the community, promoting leadership among young people. In the Social Services Division, the goal of the Social Services Division is to ensure that no Cheshire resident is living without access to necessary basic needs such as food, shelter, and utilities. We offer, for utilities, we offer the Energy Assistance Program, our Emergency Fuel Bank, and Operation Fuel. And the need for these programs consistently seems to rise, particularly as the cost of fuel rises. It's been really hard to meet that need in this community. And as the need rises, the state sometimes seems to pull back on resources, which increases the burden on our local resources for sure. We offer assistance programs with housing, the Renters Rebate Program. We offer emergency housing. So for example, if there is a house fire, if there is a domestic violence incident where somebody needs to be placed out of the home, we can provide emergency housing assistance in those situations. Sometimes somebody finds themselves homeless for a variety of reasons, and we're able to provide emergency housing to those people. We offer rental assistance. So for example, if someone is falling behind on their rent and a simple partial contribution on our part will keep them in their home, we will do that. We will make that partial contribution. We look for sustainable situations so that whatever money we are giving, there's a purpose to it, and it will keep the person in their home. We work to prevent eviction, so if we're aware that there is an eviction coming, we will do what we can to get involved, to keep that eviction from happening, to work with both the landlord and the tenant, and also to provide alternative housing or resources if that's needed. And we work to connect people to state and local resources in those situations. We provide assistance with food. We offer a food voucher program. The Cheshire Interfaith Food Drive partners with us for that program. They have been really wonderful in their response, and in fact, they just agreed to increase their vouchers. So we were giving out $40 vouchers for smaller households and $60 vouchers for larger households. Now they're increasing that to $60 and $80, which is really going to be helpful as the cost of groceries, as I'm sure you're all aware, is really on the rise and overwhelming. We partner with the Cheshire Community Food Pantry. We determine eligibility for the food pantry so that anybody who needs to use the food pantry comes through our offices first. And we do this for a couple of reasons. One, because we are connected to most of the clients in the community that use the food pantry already in most cases. And so we are able to determine their eligibility. We're aware of their resources and their assets and their limits. But also, we're then able to provide wraparound services to those people. So if they come to us, we're able to determine whether or not they might need energy assistance or some other resource that we have to offer. Meals on Wheels, and then we do offer an emergency gift card program. So if somebody finds themselves in emergent need of food, we can certainly send them to the food pantry, but we also can provide them with some gift cards to the grocery store as well. In terms of general assistance programs, we offer adoptive family programs around the holiday. We offer programs that support veterans. We provide application assistance for the state programs like SNAP and Husky, Medicare Savings Program, and Choices. If any of you have ever tried to navigate those programs or those applications, they're incredibly complicated, and sometimes people with limited resources have difficulty accessing the internet or being able to even navigate a phone call with the Department of Social Services. And so we try to support people through that process to make sure they have all the resources that are available to them. And we coordinate with other community and state organizations such as Protective Services for the Elderly, DCF, and some local foundations like the Osterman Community Foundation and Unite CT, which does a lot of rental assistance programming. As you may know, in September, we were able to hire a licensed clinical social worker to serve as our mental health and substance abuse counselor. He has been a wonderful addition to our staff. He provides supportive counseling and therapy to individuals and families across the lifespan, so he's not limited to working with young people. And he has been incredibly helpful, particularly in terms of a lot of our crisis intervention cases, because what we're able to do is we go out to a call, we realize there's resources needed or counseling needed or clinical support or even case management. We're able to connect them to Kevin the very next day. And get them the resources and the services they need, as well as to provide them with counseling support if that's necessary. So we've had several cases up to this point where he's been able to provide not only the clinical support, but also the case management, the connection to other resources, and he's really helped several of our residents already. I'll skip that one because that's long. The other thing that Kevin is doing in his position is he partnered with the Senior Center to offer a group called Courage to Change. And it's a recovery-based group. One of his focuses is on substance abuse treatment. And so it's an 8-week-long skill-building group. Solution-focused, helping people to develop self-management and healthy coping skills. And that's been really successful so far. There's already demand to continue it, which we plan to do. So we're really excited about that. In terms of general mental health and substance abuse prevention, we provide a variety of community education and awareness programs, recovery support and treatment, and prevention programs like Narcan, QPR training, and mental health first aid training. I did bring a couple of flyers for 2 events that we are having in April that I wanted to just share with you because I'm really excited about them. One is that we're going to be showing Screenagers. It's a documentary about the challenges that parents and young people face today in regards to vaping and marijuana and technology and how it's all impacting mental health. So that's on April 3rd, and I'll just leave a flyer here in case anybody's interested in the details, but I think it's posted on the website as well. And then in addition to that, we're bringing in a speaker from SAM, which is Smart Approaches to Marijuana. And the focus of his talk is going to be about not only his own experience, but specifically we wanted to target how marijuana affects the developing brain and the impact on mental health in young people. So our focus is really on helping parents and young people figure out and understand how marijuana can really impact the development of the brain and have a negative impact on youth mental health in particular. So I just wanted to share that with you. So that's just an example of some of the community education programs that we offer. In terms of senior transportation services, the Cheshire Senior Center supports older adults by providing programs and services, again, that are designed to engage our older adults in the community, promote independence, health, and wellness, and overall enhance their quality of life. The Senior Center welcomes anyone over the age of 55 to our facility and to any of our programs. I'm not going to go through all of the programs, especially since the type is so small on the slide, but I do just want to say that we offer social engagement programs, exercise programs, educational programs, social services programs. As you're probably aware, we have a transportation service that we offer. We right now have 4 buses and 1 livery vehicle. We are awaiting a new bus, which should be coming within the next week or so, that we received a grant for, I think, 3 years ago. And I'd almost given up hope that we were actually going to get it, but it's coming. I have confirmation. And we're also purchasing a smaller van as well. So our transportation services provided over 10,000 rides to elderly and disabled adults in our community over the past year. So we go to medical appointments, we go to the grocery store, transport back and forth to the senior center. It's a service that's widely utilized and really, I think, necessary. And one of the other services that we tie to that is our transportation evaluation. So we will go out to a home and assess somebody for their use of our transportation system, which allows us to see them in their home, to see how functional they are, and to see whether or not there are other resources that they might need. So it really gives us a window into some of those older adults that are really sort of shut in and not able to get out. So in terms of some highlights over the past year, we've been very active with the AARP Network of Age-Friendly Communities, really expanding that program and offering a lot of new activities as a result of that program. We've introduced and increased the delivery of some evidence-based programs to address physical and mental health, including the Aging Mastery Program, Matter of Balance, Pathway Through Grief, and Powerful Tools for Caregivers. For those people who have found themselves in a situation where they're caring for an older family member, it can be really taxing on mental health and emotional well-being, and so that program's been really helpful. The caregiver program has been really helpful in helping people to manage those responsibilities. We've continued professional training around Alzheimer's disease and dementia, as well as elderly protective services mandated reporter training. One of the things that we find we would go on a lot of our crisis intervention cases is that we are making referrals for the elderly to protective services to get other people involved in their case and to connect them to resources. Our senior center is really well connected across the state and very well respected, and Stephanie Thoreau, who is our coordinator of senior services, and her staff do an amazing job at staying current and making sure we're offering the most evidence-based and effective programs there. In terms of our crisis intervention unit, we have two of us that are on call 24/7. I'm one of them, and then Fatima Youssef, who's one of our youth and family counselors, is also on call, and she's sort of the official crisis intervention worker. We go out to calls with our police department to any sort of crisis. Some examples might be a death notification, a mental health crisis, child abuse or neglect, domestic violence called, elder abuse or neglect, homeless individuals, hoarding and unsafe dwelling situations, and addiction or overdose. We have been very busy in our crisis intervention unit over the past few years, particularly after the pandemic. Where we might have gotten a call a month before then, we're out on 2 or 3 calls a week these days, doing well-being checks and really partnering with our police and making sure that our residents are okay and gaining access to the resources that they may need in crisis. And then I just wanted to go over sort of the changes that I thought were important to mention and note in the budget request that we made for this year. We did ask for a new position at the senior center. This is a 20-hour social worker position. Right now, we have one town social worker. That is Kristen Schechter. She does an amazing job, but she is a social worker for both youth and social services as well as the senior center. And what we're seeing is the demand at the senior center is so overwhelming, while the demand in youth and social services is also increasing, and just managing all of the needs of our community has become really difficult. And so we really feel like we need some to add a position here. One of the issues that has been taking up a lot of time that you're probably going to be hearing about, in the next year or so is housing. We have several people in our community who are facing a housing crisis or who are actually homeless for a variety of different reasons. And we are trying to bring together resources and manage those situations to make sure that we're able to keep everyone safe. But it involves a lot of case management. It's very time consuming. Identifying resources, connecting people to those resources is very time consuming. And so we're really feeling like if we can create this position at the senior center and bring Kristen back over to the youth and social services side full time, that we'll be able to manage that sort of rising need that we're seeing a little bit better. In terms of the senior services membership dues, we included an increase here. It's an increase of $2,400, and that's to cover some costs that we prior were managing out of our gift account, but they're regular every year expenses. One of them is the fee for the My Senior Center database that we, it's an annual fee that we pay. We have a MailChimp account, and we have a movie licensing fee, but these are fees that we pay every year, and we just felt like they shouldn't be coming out of the donation account from the gift account, and that they should be part of our general account from this point moving forward. And I've asked for increases of $2,000 in both the Senior Services Program Services account and the Youth Services Program Services account. And that's mainly because we're seeing such an increase in costs for things like food when we provide food for programs, transportation if we're providing buses, fuel, things like that on the youth services side. And it just has become more costly to run some of the programs that we're running. And we try not to make our programs something that really provide financial hardship for people. And so that we want everybody to be able to access our programs no matter what their financial status. And so I've asked for those increases of note. And I think that's pretty much it. That concludes my presentation. I'm sure you're tired and happy about that. So if you have any questions.
Thank you, Michelle. That was a very long but quick presentation.
Sorry.
I mean, there's a lot of slides you did very quickly. I mean, that's what. That's
That
what
was purposeful, because I'm sure you're exhausted.
That was a good job. Anyone have any questions? Go ahead, Dave.
Just a quick question. On the new position, how many hours is that?
20.
20, okay. So it's a part-time,
Part-time. Mm-hmm.
and you think that's enough to cover to make up that difference?
Yes, I believe so.
So
yeah.
you basically have a part-time at the senior center and full-time at the youth human services side?
Yes, because also Stephanie Thoreau, who was the senior social worker
Yep.
before becoming the coordinator of senior services, she does some of that social work as well. So we believe between the 20-hour position and her presence there that we should be able to manage that okay.
Thank you.
Seeing none, I'll go. Michelle, thank you. This is kind of a general question. I'm not sure if anybody in the room has the answer, but you were talking about one of the programs that deals with marijuana. Does social services in this community or any community in the state see any revenue or grant opportunities from the bill that was passed a year ago that allowed recreational cannabis?
So there is proposed legislation, I believe, right now that would allow youth service bureaus, which is what human services is, to access some of that funding. Yes, but I don't believe it's been passed as of yet. So no,
Okay.
to this date, no.
Yeah, because, I mean, to me, you know, the numbers of other states that have done this are astronomical, and for it not to be coming back to communities to exactly assist in the work that your department do is, to me, you know, ludicrous if it's not happening. I think you and Jack should start a betting pool to see like which arrives sooner, your vans or his fire trucks. I think is the appropriate way to do it. I just want to thank you and your department. Not only do you and your staff do incredible work, you do incredibly important work. During my time sitting up at on the town council, I've come to know not only what you deal with, but what you see on a regular basis. And I can't thank you enough for what you do for this community.
Thank you, Michelle. I mean, in looking at the performance measures, which I guess has become kind of a hobby of mine, so I seem to mention these for everyone, but I mean, everything is going up and rapidly. Number of clinical hours, participants in the Positive Youth Development Program, which is I assume that's a good thing. You have more kids coming in all these programs. Food vouchers, energy assistance, it's all going up very rapidly. It almost feels as though we're kind of just playing catch up in a way, right? But it's all very important, obviously very important to the community, important to these groups that you serve, seniors and families and kids, and you guys do an amazing job, and thank you for everything that you do. Yep, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, sorry, and thank you, Peter and Jim, thanks. You've sort of brought some thoughts to mind, just a question, and of course, as the former liaison to the Youth and Human Service Committee, I know just how important your committee is, that committee is, but all the work that you and your department do, it's very helpful to the town. And I know when the committees merged, there was always the discussion of how are we going to cover all of this, this wide range from seniors all the way down to youth, but you've managed to do a great job covering all that territory. Two things. One is are you seeing at the high school level and even at the middle school level, are you seeing an increase of students involved with marijuana?
Yes.
I mean, that's anecdotally, as a parent who has kids in the system, I know what I'm hearing, and I'm just curious to see what you're seeing in that, and whether you're seeing it at a user level, at an abuse level, both. So, I mean, I just want to see how that's impacting you, now, especially as this becomes more legalized and more, destigmatized. It's kind of becoming more used in all forms, especially vaping and other things. Correct? Is that what you're seeing?
Yes, and I could probably do a whole other presentation on this because I'm pretty passionate about it, as Sean knows.
Yeah.
I get really worked up about it, but and I'll focus my comments on young people and sort of stay away from the adult piece.
Right.
So what we're seeing, and this is not, I don't have data to show this, but in the counseling that we're doing and our interaction with young people on a regular basis, what we're seeing is that more people are abusing marijuana. And the issue is that the concentration of THC in today's marijuana is not what it was way back when, right? And so the impact on a young person's brain is significant. And so we're seeing an increase in ADHD diagnosis. We're seeing an increase in, the limits in executive functioning, and more kids needing support in terms of academics and things like that. Increases in anxiety and depression, and all of those things that people say they're using marijuana to help with. In a young person, it's not necessarily the same, and so the perception of harm is so much lower on the part of parents. They don't believe that it's harmful because it's now legal. They don't think there's as much risk. And in my opinion, and there are people who would argue with me, I do believe that it is an addictive drug. And I think that young people do become addicted to it, and I think they have a hard time moving away from it when they start using it. And more people are abusing it as opposed to, using it in any other way. So I'm very concerned about the trend that this is taking, not only in our community, but, across the country, to be quite honest with you. So.
Thank you, and I think that's very important, because I want to make sure that not only for us, but also for those who are listening, the extent that we're seeing that in town, and also and watch out for your kids. The other question I have is, obviously your department covers a lot of this territory, but my question is there, in your experience, are there other departments that you either partner with now or could partner with? Are there programs that you think would be helpful for the town to expand upon to help your function?
Well, I think we partner really well with, for example, the police department, the fire department, the school system, and even other community agencies and organizations when need be. And so, in terms of additional partnerships, I'm not sure that I can think of one off the top of my head. Okay. But I think locally we do a really good job of working together as a community on, issues like emergency management and things like that, and like I said, crisis response, and for example, even partnering with the police department around, opioid use disorder and the drug takebacks and proper disposal of prescription drugs and things like that. I think we have really good partnerships already. And I can't off the top of my head identify one that that doesn't already exist.
Oh, I'm just curious if, obviously, we focus on what are programs that fall under your territory, but I also just wanted to find out if either now or in the future, you think that there's other programs in town that either maybe aren't as utilized as could be to help you and the people under your purview, or something, either with different departments or even with existing departments, but maybe expand on those programs. I would just be curious to know at some point in time if you have any of those thoughts to see how we can better serve, both the youth and the seniors of the community. Thank you.
Hi, Michelle.
Hey.
So as a mom of young children and the daughter of elderly parents, I cannot thank you enough for what your department does and the services that you provide to our community. I think it's just invaluable. As you were speaking, I thought to myself, I hope she has an opportunity to take a breath, right? You had just so much to say. And I had a couple of questions, which as you were speaking, you were so thorough with your presentation that you answered most of them. But I do have one follow-up. With respect to the programs that you're offering, you're providing the flyers to, first of all, I am honored to be the liaison to your department. I'm hoping to do everything I can to shout from the rooftop all of the services that are available to the community, because I just feel that they're that important. but some of them, I know are being offered like on a Wednesday at the high school, and I was wondering if there's any opportunity for some of these videos, these programs to be available to parents online so they can view them at their leisure.
For a small fee, yeah.
Yeah.
So with Screenagers, there's a licensing fee, right?
Yeah.
So we purchase a licensing fee for one screening, and unfortunately, the issue is that the auditorium at the high school is booked, right? And that's kind of the best venue for something like this. So we picked like the only date, or only 2 dates in April that we could use. But we can purchase additional licenses to have it available in alternate settings. I don't know that they let you show this online over and over again because of copyrights, but we could certainly look at offering it in additional ways for sure, or at different times of day. This is a live speaking engagement, and
Right.
so this is only a one-shot deal. But this, we could certainly find other ways to offer that.
Will the live speaking engagement be recorded?
We're not allowed to do that.
Okay. Is there an opportunity to provide Screenagers or have that be available through the library?
Yes, we could offer a showing at the library for sure. You can't, I don't think you can purchase the actual video and
Okay.
have it, possess it.
Okay.
You have to, every time you show it, you pay a licensing fee.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Michelle. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you. I just pulled this out. Is something going to blow up when I do that? Okay.
Probably 50-50 chance.
So the last one for the evening is public health. It is one line item. There are 3 elements on the line item. So it's a good-sized number, but I'll make this quick so we can go.
Flip ahead to page 191.
191.
Almost the end of the book.
Miscellaneous. Pretty sure you all know me. I'm Arnett Talbot. I'm the Assistant Town Manager, and I've been working with the public health budget for quite a few years now. The 3 elements of the public health budget include the ambulance service, Chesapeake Health District, and a much smaller category, Northwest Public Safety Communications, which is a regional emergency communications entity that we are required to support by the state. They support about 40 different communities, and their fee is about $6,000 for our portion of it, and then the Trinity Ambulance pays the additional $6,000. So we split that 50-50. So starting with the ambulance, we had a contract that was increased in 2020. I'm not, let me double check. 22 to 23. We increased it to add an additional ambulance. So the appropriation for FY '24, as you can see in the book, is 3,000, well, it may not be exact in the book. It's 3,300, it's that number. $3,339 approximately. The estimated for FY '24 that we expect to spend is close to $340,000. Not much different, it should be the same. And then for proposed, we have a placeholder because we are currently in the 5th year of the contract and we are renegotiating. So we're just estimating about a 3% increase, which brings us to close to $350,000. The Chesapeake line item has seen a reduction. It's been reduced to $11.15 per capita. So we're going from the appropriation of 2024 of $376,458 down to $323 285, that's a $65,000 reduction. Obviously, Chestercott and the ambulance are the two large drivers here. Northwest Public Safety at 6,000 isn't going to kill our budget. And we've seen an increase, just going back to FY19, Chestercott budget was $253,290. This current year is $377,773. For Trinity Ambulance, we went from, in fiscal year 2020, to compare apples and apples, we went from $325,750 to $339,078. It's been a gradual increase, about 1.5% each year, which really isn't unreasonable. So, any questions, so you can all go home?
So we're in the fifth year of this ambulance contract. So I assume we're gonna. I mean, the intention is probably to renew with this.
Yeah, so Jack and I have been negotiating with, or had some initial meetings with Trinity representatives. I think I might have mentioned this at a recent meeting, but they very much want to re-up and re-engage with Cheshire. The services have been high quality. Obviously, they have the PSA for the district as well. So ultimately, the early indications, and again, I think as we get into the formal presentation of the contract negotiations, it'd be best to do that in executive session. But suffice it to say, I think we're expecting the funding, the fees for the town to be roughly level, so maybe a little better than the 3% that we had estimated here. But again, it's all going to determine based on contract length and some other parameters that we're discussing with. But we should be having something for the council potentially at the next monthly meeting, if not the May meeting.
How is the sort of performance aspect of this contract working out for us? I know we were expecting or hoping for some sort of reduction or something, I think, based on service levels or something. I always forget what the...
Are you
wasn't?
Are you referring to, there's two different,
Response?
there's response times have been significantly improved, and I think when we go to present some of the results, and I think speaking to, again, the plan or the proposal to renew with Trinity going forward, I think the second ambulance has been, again, very helpful to that, and we have some charts and graphs that'll kind of show all of that when we go to make that presentation. But and then there's also a smaller, if you remember the last time when we had the second ambulance, there was a small revenue sharing component to that contract. It's been relatively modest. I want to say it was around $9,000 in terms of the final amount of profit share, so to speak, that we had on the second ambulance services. But the big advantage that we have working with Trinity, I mean, they've upgraded a lot of their equipment. You've seen that their ambulances are now, compared to where we were when I started here with Campion, a lot of the equipment, a lot of the vehicles were really aging, and they didn't have any of the state-of-the-art response equipment that we now enjoy with the Trinity takeover. Again, for the history, Trinity purchased Campion, just for everybody's, but that was right in the middle of Cheshire's negotiation with Campion and then ultimately Trinity for the first round of this contract. But it's, again, they've been good to work with. Again, the quality of the services and the number of complaints have dropped, as we've seen the response times improve. So there's always things they can work on, and there's some technological upgrades, and there's some dispatch improvements that they're committed to making. But all in all, it's been a good contractual arrangement for the town.
Okay, great. Go ahead, Don.
In terms of Chestercott, you said it's $11.15 per capita now, and that's been approved by their board of directors, I assume?
No, not yet.
No?
They don't have
So we're hoping
that
will be that.
It's the projection that we had.
That's the
been given.
projection, okay. And because they do have a reserve balance that I'm not sure where it is now, but the way the market has been going, it could be up to 1.3, 1.4 million, who knows. We don't expect to get any of that fund back, or we won't know until they know how much a fit out would be for Chestercott. I mean, I think there's a lot, because when we're looking at, where we can get some revenue from, what's going to cost us, there's kind of an unknown there in terms of, you know, the rent they're going to be paying, the amount, if there's going to be any reserve returned, because I know that originally they said there was going to be some, but now there might not be. And I think those are all questions I'd like to get answered before we have to vote on this budget. And hopefully we can get those answers, because it's important. It's a lot of money that we're talking about, and I think it's, you know, my concern is that if they're going to be using some of that reserve fund to offset some of the cost by lowering their per capita, what's going to happen next year then? And, you know, that's a concern of mine too. I don't want to leave them where they're operating out of a reserve fund. They should be operating out of whatever revenue they're receiving as well. So I'd like to get some of those answers before we have to vote on this. Hopefully we can get those answers.
As soon as the board votes and approves the budget, we'll share that.
Do we have a time frame of when that might happen? Will it be before we have to vote on ours?
I mean, I can speak to this a little bit just because I've been attending their board meetings. The budget, I think the budget is, I mean, probably not going to be voted on until May, I believe, because it hasn't been presented to the board yet. It'll be presented to the board, I think, sometime in the next couple weeks. The next board meeting comes up in a couple weeks.
That's gonna make it a little difficult on us, isn't it? I mean,
As far as the 1115, that was voted on by the board. It was Mike Federico and the Finance Committee had presented that to the board.
Well, because I read the
They
minutes,
did-
I didn't see that it was voted on, and I know last week's meeting was canceled, so.
Well, maybe it wasn't voted on, but it was accepted as that was what they were going to go forward with in this year. So it may not have been actually voted on.
Okay.
But that's what they're presenting to the town for this next fiscal year.
Yeah, from my time on the board, which I am not on the board anymore, so I'm a little less close to it. But when I was in January, the finance committee of the board voted to on basically an expectation that the upcoming budget would be built upon an $11.15 assumption. So I think I forwarded that to the council back in January. But in terms of a formal full board vote, I'm not aware of one, and as Jim said, I don't think they've presented or considered the operating budget at this time.
Is your budget normally not voted on until May? Is that what, or is that
It's rarely been
normal?
voted on before we finalize.
Okay, so we're just gonna have to go on assumptions.
It's usually in April. I don't think it's been voted in May, not since I've been here. Not formally passed.
Well, I guess you're right. We've never had the adopted budget when we present the budget.
Perhaps that's one thing we can add into an
That's-
MOU. That we would like to get their budget passed so that we can properly vote on our budget too. I mean, that's kind of an important thing for us.
I wish the state would do that too. Yeah. But we'll definitely share whatever information we can. We'll keep on top of it.
I can come up
Oh,
with two
come-
quick questions.
Come sit with me.
Hi there. Guy Darter, 474 Maple Avenue here in Cheshire. The $11.15, is that what other towns are paying reasonably? So
Yes. It's a
Hamden?
fee for-
Well,
not our members.
not our members, other towns that have health departments?
Every town is different.
Is this high or the?
Every health district is different.
Okay, is this on the high side, the low side, in the middle?
I think this puts us, we were a little more to the high side. Sorry, Mike. And I think the 1115 puts us more towards the middle, if my memory serves, when we were going through this process at the end of last year.
Because we seem to have, from what I understand, a big reserve they have that has been added to because their fees have been higher than what their expenses have been. I would think maybe we should negotiate a better deal than 1115. We should be more on the lower side since we've given them, I don't know, they've got $1 million something in their kitty. I just think that maybe we should negotiate a little bit tighter. That would help. And the other question I have, I hear that they're possibly taking over Arts Place is the deal. So do we know what the rent is? Obviously, if it's been negotiated, what are they paying us in rent?
It hasn't been negotiated. That'll be,
Okay. Is there a number that you're working on?
yes,
Can you tell us?
no.
Why not?
It's negotiations.
Okay, so we'll come in front of the council?
Yes,
Okay. And then,
Yep.
will that include, will they be doing the build-out? Is that part of that negotiation? Who's doing the build-out on
Yes.
that? Okay. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
thank you. Thanks for showing up.
Just out of curiosity, is the, and maybe Don had mentioned this earlier, question, if they're doing the build-out, is their plan to use that, if the reserves to make that build-out? Is that the plan? Who's paying for the build-out, or is that still to be negotiated, and where the money's coming from? Is that still to be negotiated?
Chesapeake will be paying for the bill.
Okay, but will it be coming from their operating funds or from the reserve funds? Do we know?
I don't know, that's however they decide to do it.
Yeah, not for
Up to the-
me to
it's up
say,
to the
but I
Chesapeake
think the
Board.
expectation was they were saving some of those reserves for a new building, and I would assume that their expectation is they will use some of those reserves for the fit-out.
And just how does the reserve funds work? I'm just out of curiosity. Is that if they take the funds from the reserve funds, the remaining funds are still in the same proportion as, that is what would come back to the town, or what our cut of that is still in the same proportion as it was before? Like, it's not coming from Cheshire's part of the reserve, it's coming from everybody's part of the reserve. Like, that reserve is split among the 3 towns, right? Each town gets a percent. If that pool was to come back to towns, it would be split in accordance with a certain percentage, right?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
But I think probably a question that Chesapeake maybe could answer
Right.
directly or appropriately then.
Right, I just want to make sure that, but it's not coming, if they were to pay for that, it's not, they can't, it's not going to say, well, that's coming from Cheshire's percentage or somebody else. It would be split, and then the remaining funds would be split over the 3 of us,
Once
hopefully.
the funds go to Chesapeake, they're Chesapeake's funds. They're not, for whatever purpose they're saving it for, that's up to them and their board to decide.
Gotcha. Okay. Just-
Yeah, to follow up on those things, Peter, and I mentioned this the other day, I was surprised. When will the council be brought up to date on all these discussions with Chesapeake and these negotiations, et cetera? Will we have executive session discussion at some point in the near future, Peter?
Sean, where do we stand as of today? The negotiations are ongoing, and
We are currently, Jeff D'Onofrio is getting a draft document for us to share with the Chesapeake Board with the proposed terms. And once we have a draft of that before we send it to the Chesapeake Board, we would share that with the council. The memorandum of understanding has gone to both Wolcott and Prospect for their review. We've heard from each of those mayors that they are reviewing it. We have not heard a response from them yet. Once we get their input, we'll share that with the council as well. And at that point, that's when we go and start talking to Chesapeake directly with the documents that the council has approved. And hopefully we will reach an agreement on each of those documents and come back to council and get the formal approval and move ahead.
And sorry, I did send an email out to you guys last week, as you know, with what we had suggested, because we weren't part of the writing up of the MOU, and I did ask that you at least send it over to the rest of the council here, so that they could see what we were suggesting as part of the MOU, and I would just ask if you could just send that out to them.
Your email? Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just think that, I mean, we weren't part of the original part, but we did have some suggestions, and although they weren't put into it, maybe somebody else might look at it and say, oh yeah, that might not be a bad idea to add into it, but it may be too late now because it's already gone to the towns. But we just felt that what we felt was important should have been put out there as well, so.
No,
Yeah.
that's,
And let me just to clarify, John, it is the intention that we'll have the MOU back for this council to vote on with any changes that Wolcott and Prospect have made for the April 16th meeting.
Yeah, and as Don mentioned, I mean, we did collaborate on some suggestions to the MOU, which we would have appreciated having the council here, because I thought they would be helpful to the long-term potential success of Chesprocott. They were, I think, not unreasonable. The way I read the MOU right now, there's not much to it, quite frankly. It talks about some reporting, talks about adding an advisory board member, but there's really nothing else in there. There's no financial metrics, no discussion of the excess funds and goals and objectives, et cetera. So I think the MOU, as I see it right now, is not a strong document. Having said that, the only thing I ask is that before deals are made and agreements are kind of inked, if we can collaborate and talk through those in executive session and have some kind of input, because it feels like it's going to come back to us for a rubber stamp. We're not going to have much chance to actually provide valuable input. And I really think it's important for the town. We're looking at a $50,000 reduction in a plus or minus reduction in expenses here. Those are big numbers. If that's real, that's great. If Chesprocott's successful and they can keep those reductions down, those are all good things, but we'd like to collaborate on this rather than just kind of be brought in at the end, if that's possible.
All right, so we have gone way over our allotted 2 hours, but we covered a lot of ground today. So good meeting, and I hand it back to you, Mr. Chairman.
And I'll call for a motion to adjourn. Mr. Walsh, and second, Mr. Veliber?
Sure.
And all in favor? We are done. Thank you.